does not care about Palestinians as human beings. One side is a human, the other side is a barbaric monster child.
I never said that, obviously. He says that he'd like nothing more than to come on to unsay. You call me a propagandist. This was your reaction to when the hospital got...
Oh no, we're going hard right off the bat.
Hospital got
I'm a propagandist.
Why would you be so certain in what you said before you knew?
IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Yes, it did! Yes, it did! Yes, it did! You piece of Yes, it absolutely did! You genocidal scumbag! You have no dignity. You do not have an ounce of dignity inside of your soul. Terrible that the people died, but I encourage you to look into where Hamas was firing. You piece of you garbage, monstrous scumbag.
Your admitted propagandist bias on your part was that you wanted that to be an Israeli airstrike. It suited your narrative. Let me respond.
56 straight years.
I hear you.
It's funny because like Cenk has more like formal-ish media training than Hasan does. Cenk can probably play Piers' game a lot better than Hasan could, but we'll see.
Well, now the battle of the hearts and minds, traditionally played out through diplomacy and propaganda, is being played out online. My next guest has almost 500 million views for his provocative commentary online, making him hugely influential. Hasan Piker streams live under the name Hasan Abi. His analysis of the Israel...
It's a Gundam drama with Pokey? Stop, we're done talking about Pokey. Also, that It's a Gundam guy is the closest thing to legally retarded you can possibly be, with the exception of maybe Bo Blacks.
Hugely influential. Hasan Piker streams live under the name Hasan Abi. His analysis of the Israel-Hamas war has taken...
Wait, what do they censor out of here? Are there sponsors or something, or... What are they censoring on this?
a highly critical stance towards Israel and Western media.
Oh, his chat. Oh, Lemeo.
He's been calling me out for my coverage.
Because he only cares about Israeli citizens. He does not care about Palestinians as human beings. That's why it's apples to oranges. It's like one side is a human, the other side is a barbaric monster child.
I never said that, obviously. He says that he'd like nothing more than to come on to uncensored.
I never said that, obviously.
And call me a baboon in a suit to my face. Well, here I am, a baboon, and he can join me now. I'm joined by Hasan. Hasan, thank you very much indeed for coming on.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you. Beautiful morning.
Thank you for having me, Piers. It's very early here in Los Angeles, California, but I'm gonna try to do my very best to not do my British accent while I'm
I like the hedging already. What time was it here? Somebody said it's noon? If you guys are trying to determine the time just based on when it aired, they probably pre-recorded it, almost for sure. My guess is there's probably a studio in LA that they went to that they shot out of, they probably pre-recorded it, and then they aired it an hour after they finished debate. It was 12 on the dot. Oh, people are saying it was 12 Eastern. That would be 9 a.m. California time. If it was pre-recorded, they might have recorded it an hour or two earlier. Okay, people are saying the interview's at 7 a.m. Okay, so pretty early. Okay.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. And listen, I appreciate you coming on. Explain to me why you consider me...
He said it was recorded in a van. Okay.
...a stenographer for the Israeli government, given that in the last week, I think more than any other host in the world, I have given lengthy platforms to pro-Palestinian voices to articulate that side of the argument.
No, I do have to commend you. You certainly have had more pro-Palestinian voices than the rest of the British media and certainly the rest of Western media in general. Now, as far as saying that you're a stenographer, I said that journalists are not supposed to be stenographers, and yet when it comes down to it, in most circumstances, in whatever conflict we may be in, there are stenographers for whichever party is aligning with the American State Department and the interests of the West in general. And Israel happens to be the one in this ongoing conflict.
But it's interesting that you call me a propagandist, because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got...
Oh no, we're going hard right off the bat. People are saying that he's trying to lower his voice or fake Riz voice. So I would say on one hand, if it's really early for him, his voice might just be deep. Like even like when I wake up in the morning, my voice is even like way down. Like it's possible, but then also I'm pretty sure I've heard him do the deep Riz voice when he's on other shows, so it might be intentional as well. I don't know, it's hard to say. Because didn't he do that on the was it Context? Was that the name of the show that he was on where he built it on his own?
I just made my own choices and built my own business model, I guess, if I were to use a term like that. I paved it on my own because I thought, like, this is a concept that I think is cool, gaming. This is a concept that I think you can marry with gaming, political commentary. I paved it on my own, paved it on my own.
I paved it on my own.
Shout out to Destiny, by the way.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say, yeah.
Oh, you know of him? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But when I watched that video, I was like, oh, that's cool. So we have like somebody in the gaming community who's actually pushing back.
Hell yes, that's actually Destiny's the reason why I know about Trihex as well.
If Destiny was my roommate, I'd get him laid all the time. I was like, all right, whatever. Well, I don't have anything. Like, I don't have anything. I have no option. I'm in the next 11 days. So much so that, like, Steven was DMing me on Discord and saying, hey, you know what? If you don't have a place to live, buddy, like, you can come stay with me. It's okay. What a good guy. Destiny is a great guy.
Oh yeah, watch out. He gets real rowdy with that. Here, for all of you guys is here, Fish and Destiny playing.
Okay, wait. Hey, listen. I love you.
What?
I told a friend that I would play a game with him, and then I have to get ready for that Skunk podcast shit. Listen, don't worry. You're gonna get all my viewers who want to watch it are gonna go to your stream.
Okay. I mean, no, it's fine. I wanted to watch it with you, but it's cool, dude. Friendship is just dead, I guess.
Oh, Speedo McGee's your fan that gave me 200 subs so far.
No, you're coming.
I thought this was like a convention. I thought this was like the Young Turks like office Christmas
it's
party.
A family party. I told you.
And why the f would I go to your family party?
I don't know what the f are you gonna do. Sit around and eat Chinese food by yourself while crying? People in the chat are like, that sounds like Destiny for sure, dude. Your fan base is wild, dude. All right, you want to go out tonight, dude?
I just kind of want to kill myself tonight.
What's going on? What happened?
Why are you gonna just stiff him like that, dude? That was rude as.
Because they didn't want you to be here. That's why.
Oh, you're like standing up for me.
Solidarity.
It's not gonna hurt my feeling, brother.
No, it's fine.
No, why the f would I help anyone else? You're the only person I've ever done that for. You better feel special.
Oh wow, I do, dude.
Well, I mean, I'm super cute, but you're cuter. Don't worry. In a different way.
I paved it on my own.
Oh, complex. I think Vaush tries to do that too. So I don't know if he was trying to deep his voice on it. Who cares? Whatever.
Propagandist, because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got.
I'm
bombed.
a propagandist.
Well, no.
For the record.
I'm not calling
I'm a
you that.
propagandist.
I'm just saying. I'm going to play you.
I'm saying I am.
Okay. Well, then I want to.
I'm saying I am.
I just
before
want to
you even play it.
Okay. I'm going to play the clip. This is your reaction to the bombing of the hospital the other night.
While I was in the process of getting ready for the stream, Israel enacted one of the singular worst strikes they have done thus far, and an airstrike, an Israeli airstrike, hit the Al Ahli hospital in Gaza City, where thousands of civilians were seeking medical treatment and shelter from the relentless bombing campaign.
Now, interestingly, when you were saying that, I was coming on air too. And I took a position.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Position based probably on 30 years of being a journalist, including running major newspapers, working at CNN and others, of waiting, of just saying, I think we should just wait and see what is actually.
Let me add Destiny. You and your chat are so uncharitable to Hasan, down to how he sounds or breathes. It's the same thing you say you hate about Vaush in his community. Okay, kind of, but like, here's something that I haven't figured out. I don't know how to thread the needle on this one yet. Just as a real quick aside. Sometimes people are fake and performative, and I think it's good to call it out, but it's hard to call it out without always coming across as unhinged or obsessed. I feel like there's an issue right now that exists in media, or I say media, maybe alternative media, or maybe in my world, where there's a really good defense of everything, and that's just saying, wow, rent-free, wow, obsessed, wow, rent-free, wow, obsessed, to where a person can do like horrible shit, or say horrible shit, or be performative as fuck, and then anytime somebody criticizes them, like, oh, wow, you're obsessed, oh, wow, you're obsessed. Donald Trump did it with his fans. Oh, Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, Trump derangement syndrome. So, I mean, there is a point where it's like too much to call out, but I think it's worth calling out when you see it. Like Vaush's performativity, I think, is very worth calling out. Like he comes off as very magnanimous, very courteous, very kind, very charismatic, very everything when he's at public events. He's a very good speaker.
It's been such a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes.
Likewise.
Oh,
here, likewise.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Yes. Thank you. Oh.
You can do it. Yeah, and then us. And we finished. Nice. We did it.
But he's like the opposite of all of that. He's like a snake, right?
His subreddit is basically like Kiwi Farms, I think.
He knows what he's doing when he makes this comparison. The reason why people don't like Kiwi Farms is because of the narrative that was driven on the internet that Kiwi Farms doxes people and makes people kill themselves. I do not have any idea where he gets that comparison from or why. Well, I don't know why he would think it's appropriate to make that comparison. It's not at all. That's insane. That is an insane comparison to make. Especially when, remember, I should have links for this, but remember, it was Vaush's subreddit that got an admin warning for brigading other subs. They got admins that warned them, and admins that came to help our community because of how hard they were brigading. Remember that.
Oh, that person? You mean the person who, and then they have like the manifesto pre-saved to their clipboard, you know, like.
Yes. He's making the manifesto sound like a bad idea, but that's the whole point of the manifesto, is that when I make claims about people, I do a lot of work to like source it as well as I can, because I don't want people to make things up. So it's frustrating that he somehow tries to like make that a bad thing, right? We're like, oh, well, they've got the manifesto ready. Yeah, because I've sourced, like, these are all of the nice things that I've done for Vaush, okay? And I did a lot of nice things for Vaush. I went out of my way to be nice towards him, okay? I was willing to mute my stream and have convos with him when he was banned from Twitch. I always show the full context of what he's talking about. I deleted the Poppy sexual allegation video from my channel so that his early YouTube career wouldn't be besmirched by the sexual harassment allegation. I've defended and advertised him multiple times on my channel. I was the one, remember when Vaush went on the show where he was debating against Bastia, and Bastia was my friend, and I was casted the deciding vote for the winner. I thought that Vaush did a better job, even when he hated me. I was the one that cast the vote for that. I took Vaush's side in the argument against him and RGR. Or against when Doe was debating with RGR, even though RGR is my friend. I give him credit when he needs to. I side with him when I can. Like, yeah, like even my community sides with Vaush when he makes good arguments. Yeah, but I've done like a lot. And then when he talks about me, yeah, it's insane. But anyway, I'm sorry. We're not going to reread this whole thing, but like I give a lot of examples of how Vaush totally misrepresents me, about how I do my best to be good faith to him. But yeah, him writing that off was like making fun of it. I think it demonstrates the weakness of his position, because again, every time he talks about me, he never sources or cites anything. He just says a thing that is a lie about me, and then his community propagates that lie on the winds of their bullshit sales constantly, and it's so annoying. I reject this argument. Not beating the he lives rent-free in DGGers' heads allegations with the Reddit manifestos, though. No, I disagree with that. That's like such an easy way to avoid all culpability or responsibility of a comment. Like, oh, I just totally lied about you. Wait, hold on. Well, look at that here. Like, you are lying about me. And they're like, huh, rent-free, bro. Rent-free, bro. Why are you writing about me? Bro, rent-free source? Rent-free, bro. No. But to say that, like, I want to account for all of the lies that arguably one of the most damaging people against my career has told about me online, that's like rent free. No, that's not rent free. Okay, that's me. Okay, cashing this dude's checks. Fuck that.
Like he wanted to fight back against the idea that the left was like plucky and had no money or something, even though that wasn't the point being made. Stupid, asinine, low IQ beneath him. But that's what being angry does to you. Anyway, all things aside, I think it was
so notice like he doesn't actually present my argument. He has the false narrative of this is like the full simulacra thing. Like, look at how much fantasy, like we've built a whole narrative here on pure fantasy. So first we create the lie of the subreddit, okay? Negative subreddit posts. This is a lie. And then Destiny reads the negative subreddit posts and I get upset. That's a lie. And then I go on stage because of these two things, and then I start making stupid arguments that he's not even really representing. Like, and then this is also a lie. We'll say DA for Destiny arguments. Like, this entire, and now people have this whole thing like, oh, Destiny, that's a spy-driven dude. He thinks that individual donations are the same as PAC money, and his subreddit is Kiwi Farms 2.0. I think Destiny literally hated Vaush because his subreddit shit on him, because they're basically Kiwi Farms, right? This entire self-contained little simulacrum, this whole thing is all built on lies and fabrication, right? It's insane.
She happened here, get clarification, see who's actually to blame before we start passing judgment. You raced in to assume, as many people did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media, and of course, most of the Arab world.
Dog, you paused to call it 5 things in 10 minutes, maybe a bit much. Okay. I understand I'm just reading one chatter's message, and I'm getting one guide right now, okay? But you guys complained before that I didn't react enough, okay? Now I'm reacting a lot and you're complaining. I need you to make up your mind, chat. You have to move as one unified body and stop one-guying me, okay?
World, BBC, you raced in to assume, as many people did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media, and of course, most of the Arab world,
You aren't reacting to actual content, you're just being a scatterbrained retard? No, I was reacting literally to a comment literally about this type of stuff. What is the appropriate amount of criticism, or the appropriate type of criticism to levy on people, right? Should we just be factual and just talk about things they're saying? Do you talk about their presentation? Do you talk about like fake crying or Riz voices or whatever? Is that relevant? Is it obsessed? No, it's literally exactly about this and the presentation of this, okay?
Then followed that this was clearly, indisputably, an Israeli airstrike on this hospital. And yet all the evidence now suggests very strongly that it wasn't. That in fact, this was a rocket that misfired coming from a terrorist group inside Gaza. So my question for you is this. Why would you
I wouldn't go that far,
Why
Piers.
would you be so certain in what you said before you knew?
Okay, I'm gonna put this side by side. I want you to understand something, okay? So that is a JDAM called on.
So there's literally no pushback for any of this, because obviously none of the LSF streamers know anything. And then this is like Emma's lying to me. I wish I had your confidence. I can't imagine sitting here and like pretending to give you guys like good analysis. Bro, I don't know what a missile looks like. I don't know what a rocket looks like. I don't know what any of this I've never seen any of this in my entire life. I've never seen any. I can't imagine being like, okay, hold on, let me check this out, guys. Oh, I can definitely tell you the ballistics of that. Oh, for sure. Oh, this is a super normal. Oh, 100%. That's a rocket interception with a JDAM missile coming on the vertical trajectory. Like, and I know Hasan doesn't know this. I know Hasan has no idea.
Vaush, this is misinfo. The new footage from the live stream happened at the exact same time the explosion happened. What?
IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Change title. IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. You piece of shit. Yes, it absolutely did. You want to know why I know that? Because they bombed that same hospital 2 days ago. And also on top of that, they told that hospital and 6 other hospitals in the Gaza region to evacuate. You. You genocidal scumbag. You have no dignity. You do not have an ounce of dignity inside of your soul. Terrible that the people died, but I encourage you to look into where Hamas was firing. You piece of shit. You garbage, monstrous scumbag. You garbage, monstrous scumbag. You said IDF didn't bomb the hospital, and then you said it did, but Hamas was firing rockets from it in the same 2-minute time frame. So why did you lie at first? Huh? Why did you lie? How can you live with yourself, you genocidal piece of shit? You have no evidence, stop concluding? What is this? What am I looking at?
Rip. Oof, they lit that fucking thing up. Look at the traces. This one is literally Arma 3. It's fake. It's Arma. Oh, god damn it!
What am I looking at with my own 2 eyes? What are you looking at? I have no evidence? Don't believe your eyes? What do you mean? Does that strike you as a misfire? This will not be verified inevitably further. We've already done the verification. There's already enough evidence to 100% show. Watch.
Okay. So, first and foremost, before we get started on this conversation, let's understand something very important here. There's no electricity in Gaza. Internet is patchy in Gaza. There's no food in Gaza. There's no water in Gaza. This is all by design. This is because Gaza is under a brutal blockade, a brutal occupation by the Israeli government. Okay? So that plays a role in the fog of war and misinformation.
We should, Fog of the Pogs, how'd you sleep last night? Shut the fuck up. I slept great, though. I slept for like 10 hours. One thing I want to do, actually, I'll add this to my note thing. People use this open air prison, you know, what are the actual conditions in Gaza? Because I hear a lot of different things said about this constantly, and I think it's probably good to know. Well, when we start reading more about Israel, so we'll read into that, so yeah.
Information that gets spread. Having said that, however, you made it seem as though there is a certainty that this was 100% not an Israeli airstrike.
No, I didn't. And instead, I literally just said it's not a certainty.
Okay, sorry.
I said the evidence is increasingly pointing to this not being an Israeli airstrike. And that is expert evidence
Okay,
from people who have no skin in the game at all.
Yes. Well, I don't know which expert you're talking about, because I think Channel 4 did a pretty good job. As a matter of fact, I would say Channel 4 did probably the best job so far.
Channel 4, I think, is the one that very early, I think, came out and said that it was almost for sure Israel or whatever. I feel like I remember seeing their coverage. I'm doing this while traveling, guys, so like my archive of like what I read was different. But Channel 4 seemed to have some pretty biased coverage in favor of or against the Israeli side. But you might think that because I just am tending to fall more on the Israeli side right now. Maybe you think that, but I feel like the Channel 4 coverage was pretty wild. But you know, that's just my takeaway. You know, trust my intuition or don't, or go find the reporting yourself. But yeah.
Far in analyzing everything that the IDF has said, but the reason why
Channel 4, I believe, is British media. I believe so. Yeah.
I believed, and I still do believe, that the likelihood is that this was an Israeli bombing campaign wasn't only because of the singular verifiable video, the phone video from the balcony that had all of the markings of an airstrike, the fact that the Israeli Air Force was enacting a bombing campaign in the region at the time, according to the Al Jazeera live streaming footage that everyone is using but doesn't understand. The fact that the digital media person for the IDF immediately came out and said that this was actually an airstrike that hit a Hamas target, and that he was sad that there were, casualties at the end of the day, but this was a Hamas target, and celebrated it. And more importantly, I guess, the fact that this hospital had been bombed by Israel. This hospital had been bombed by Israel on Saturday. 22 hospitals have, as a matter of fact, been bombed by Israel since this last saga.
I don't know if you want to fact check everything. If you want to fact check everything as he's saying it, I probably am not going to go through. Almost everything Hasan says is like pretty wild. So I don't like to say this without having it in front of me. Can somebody link me what the UN considers a hospital bombing? Because this number of 22 hospitals bombed by Israel, I believe it comes from the UN, but I'm pretty sure bombing, the definition that they use for striking or bombing is incredibly broad. So for instance, like a knock bomb, they count as a bombing, even if there are 0 casualties, let alone fatalities. That's like what the UN considers like a bombing. But like when you hear 22 hospitals bombed, the impression is like, holy shit, at the very least direct strikes, if not leveled. But like destroyed, no, I don't believe. What is a knock bomb? Israel will drop a bomb, explode it on the top of a roof to give people time to evacuate, to let them know that they're gonna blow a thing up. Now, I've heard criticism, so Matt brought this up in real life, Wicked Supreme brought this up in real life. He said that sometimes the knock bombs on some of these places are unrealistic. For instance, if your huge apartment complex gets a knock bomb that you got to leave in 15 minutes, you might not have time to evacuate in 15 minutes, right? I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a real life criticism I've heard from him on that. But yeah. Oh, and also, yeah, I think the UN was including hospitals that were warned they were going to be bombed as well. Yes.
In the occupation, and this hospital had been bombed.
You think your definition of strike is better than the UN's? Yeah. If I was talking about hospitals that were, I don't even know if the UN says these were bombed though. That's just the infographic, the meme that goes around. But yeah, I wouldn't say 22 hospitals were bombed if they're either warning strikes or just warnings. I would think that that doesn't convey an accurate message to people when you hear about that. I wish that people, when you approach headlines, the approach should be the same as making graphs, right? So if you've ever read a bit into the theory behind designing graphs, graph making is to a bit, it's an art, right? When you're choosing the types of graphs to use, the colors, the way that you represent data, the whole point about a graph isn't just supposed to be information dense. The point of a graph is that it's information dense in a way that's easy to read. The graph should convey something immediately to a person that's looking at it. And headlines should be treated the same. You're very dense. It's usually only a few words, several words, but you're trying to convey something meaningful. If you're conveying something in a headline in a few words that is not very close to the reality of what's actually happening, then I would argue that that headline or that conveyance is ineffective. And I think most people that are critically analyzing that would agree with me, right? So when you say 22 hospitals bombed, you're not thinking 22 hospitals warned or 22 hospitals warned and some were not bombed. You're thinking 22 hospitals like exploded,
That's what you're thinking. And that's why I don't think that's an effective way to communicate that. And if the UN does indeed count those as bombings, I would criticize the UN and say this doesn't accurately convey what's happening, and it's not a good way to do it. So yes. Now, to be clear, to reiterate, I don't know if that's what the UN says is bombings, or that's just what floats around in the infographic, but yeah.
Last saga in the occupation, and this hospital had been bombed directly by Israel, where the cancer ward was destroyed. Israel has been bombing all of these hospitals. Israel has been calling all of these hospitals to evacuate over and over and over again. The medical professionals at the hospital had been called by the Israeli government the day prior, and everyone on the ground assumes that this is an Israeli airstrike. They are the ones who experienced.
Yeah, true. Hold on, let me read this now because I wrote this up. Third committee condemns brutal bombings of Gaza hospital and forces displaced Palestinian civilians. Emphasize need. Wait, is the 22 number in here? Oh. Israel ordered the evacuation of 22 hospitals, which the World Health Organization has labeled a death sentence for the sick and injured. Some 2 million people live in Gaza, half of them children, but Israel's bombing it as if civilians are to be killed. This is from Sahar, KH Salem, Observer of the State of Palestine. It said that for 11 days. I think this is where the 22 number comes from, literally. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to, okay. I'm not going to I don't know how I should fact check this because I'm going to have to pause and shit quite a bit if I do this, so yeah, okay.
And everyone on the ground assumes that this is an Israeli airstrike. They are the ones who experienced the situation.
Listen, Hasan,
so when you have
but the
every
truth
single,
is,
can I just finish this?
If you watch the BBC account of all this last night, by their Verify unit, which was specifically set up by the BBC to be completely dispassionate in these investigations. And they reached a pretty clear conclusion based on circumstantial evidence, I'll make that clear, that this would not have been an Israeli airstrike, including, for example, the size of the crater, which bears no relation to the size of craters normally left by Israeli air. So, look, my point is, neither of us know for sure. But you took to your airwaves immediately because actually you're, I wouldn't even say unconscious bias, your admitted propagandist bias on your part was that you wanted that to be an Israeli airstrike. It suited your narrative. And I would say that that in itself, in its way, is being a stenographer. Well, you know, you accuse me of being a stenographer. I try and be fair and get to the truth. In your case, I don't think you try to do that. I think you appeal to your audience, appeal to your base.
This is true. Everything Piers is saying is true. I think it might be true of Piers as well, but this is absolutely true, yes.
And you don't really care whether the facts are there or not.
This is entirely unfair because
Destiny, how many hospitals being warned and then blown up is too many? I mean, it really comes down to what Israeli intelligence says is in the hospital, right? In terms of blowing up hospitals with sick people, that's probably almost always going to be unacceptable without like a compelling story to do so. But I mean, if Hamas is operating out of hospitals, which they do, yeah, I don't know. That's a rough one. I actually don't know the answer to that. I'm curious what Lonerbox would say. If somebody is, let's say that there are genuinely sick people there, and there are also genuinely Hamas operatives there, like, is the collateral damage moral or worthwhile to attack said hospitals? I haven't actually thought about that yet. I'm not sure. I'm serious, or I'm curious what, wait, hold on. Is Lonerbox awake? Are you awake / available at the moment? Oh boy, who joined? Oh, it's Lycan. Uh-oh.
It is. When you bomb a hospital, it has to be, there are a lot of restrictions. First of all, like in general, you don't bomb hospitals, but then after that, if you're going to, it's not enough just for the enemy to operate from there. There has to be an actual strategic advantage being made, not just, oh, we wiped out more of our enemy.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think that the arguments for strategic advantage are quite broad.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like I was trying to research on, like, because some people, wait, was this you yesterday, or maybe I heard this before a week ago? People were saying that, like, blowing up civilian power plants is a war crime, and when Russia did it to Ukraine, it was a war crime. Anna might have said that, but then I started reading, and it's like, well, if you can make an argument that the power plants are being used to function, or to power things that are a function of the war, you can actually argue that you can blow up civilian power plants, and it's not a war crime. And we use many similar arguments when, like, carpet bombing so many cities in Japan for World War II, and then in Dresden and Paris, not Paris. Yeah, there's like a lot of cities that get like majorly bombed. So I don't know what the actual answer is for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely just more complicated than just the enemy operates from there or has launched an attack from there. Like, there has to be something more to it. But that was all.
Okay. Somebody in YouTube chat said, Destiny, regarding the actual conditions in Gaza, there are plenty of videos showing the luxurious hotels in Gaza, their shopping malls, beaches, and whatnot, all shot by Gazans and their government. Okay, so I'm aware of that. I think it's like hashtag the Gaza they don't show you. Be careful, okay? Please be careful of this. It can be true that there are really good areas of Gaza that are relatively luxurious, but the vast majority of Gaza is in poverty. Both of those things can be true at the same time. Just because you've seen videos, or just because you've seen pictures of parts of the Gaza Strip or parts of Gaza City that look really nice, doesn't mean that the vast majority isn't impoverished, okay? Be careful not to fall for shit like that, all right? Destiny, you can also read about what it is that Israel thinks. Their interpretation means that buildings occupied by military legal targets are all military targets, and within buildings, civilians do not have to be incorporated into assessments of collateral. Okay, gotcha. Hold on. Important note on residential apartment buildings with military units inside. Israel adopts, I don't know what article this comes from, but usually IRK linking things in chat is almost always true. Israel apparently adopts a highly unusual view of LOAC, I don't know what that stands for, that would allow greater license to LOAC, Law of Armed Forces? The Law of Armed Conflict. Oh, okay. So this is basically like rules of war, rules of engagement kind of, that I think internationally maybe we all kind of agree on. That would allow greater license to destroy an entire residential apartment building in which an enemy military facility is found, and to do so without the standard proportionality analysis. The generally accepted view is that an attack on a civilian apartment building in such cases must consider whether the civilian infrastructure that is expected to be destroyed is excessive in relation to the expected military advantage. ICRC, the United States International Law Association, ICRC report surveying states' views and leading scholarship. The outlier position adopted by Israel is that, as a matter of law, the building is a single military objective, and therefore damage to other parts of the building need not be considered as collateral damage. This conception of the rule does not appear to include a limiting principle that would apply to other civilian objects, including medical facilities, houses of worship, schools, and the like. So it sounds like if the United States was to bomb a school or bomb a hospital, we would say, okay, there's a military operation in the hospital, but we need to consider how many people are in this hospital. If there's like 100, maybe we bomb it. If there's like 5,000, that's way too much, right? But it sounds like what Israel says is, oh, that military target is a military target. We actually don't even factor in collateral. There could be 5 million people in that hospital. We're still bombing it. It's a military target. The collateral damage is not part of our assessment. It sounds like that's what Israel does, assuming this article is true and assuming that interpretation is correct.
You just said circumstantial evidence favors
your audience appeals.
Wait, Rage Pope says it also still accounts for the people in the building. Are you sure? Because this thing just said the exact opposite. Do you have it like a source or something different than that? Or Destiny, no, it's not considered collateral damage. A school across the street would be considered in the assessment if the bomb would damage that. Okay, sure, a non-military building. That's next to it. Sure. Okay.
To your base, and you don't really care whether the facts are there or not.
This is entirely unfair because you just said circumstantial evidence favors that this was not an Israeli airstrike.
Yeah.
I gave you all of the circumstantial evidence that it does favor that this is an Israeli airstrike. The reason why, however, circumstantial evidence is not enough. And the one thing that I will concede to, because when more information did come out, and no, I do not mean...
So Destiny just wants to counter anything Hasan says. Only when I think it's wrong. What do you mean? Note 2, to avoid confusion, it is important to make clear that Israel's legal position would still consider any loss of civilian life or injury to civilians in the proportionality analysis. It is the civilian infrastructure of the building itself which drops out of their equation. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. It's only the building. It's not the people in the building. I'm sorry. Wait, Irk, do you disagree with that? Or... Buildings occupied by military legal targets are all military targets, so within buildings, civilians do not have to be incorporated. Oh, wait, hold on. Irk disagrees with you. So Irk and Rage Pope, you guys are having a disagreement here. Destiny 2, just what I said. I said this about civilians. This quote is about civilian infrastructure. No, it's just infrastructure, not people. Oh, okay, never mind. So I'm sorry. It's not about the people in it. It's just the building. So rewind what I just said. Okay, sorry. Okay. That quote doesn't say what he initially said. Yeah, okay.
This is an Israeli airstrike. The reason why, however, circumstantial evidence is not enough. And the one thing that I will concede to, because when more information did come out, and no, I do not mean when Israel said that they did not bomb this hospital and it was actually Hamas, and then they turned around and went, never mind, it's not Hamas, it's actually Islamic Jihad. And then they said, we have more evidence coming out in a couple hours. And then the evidence came out, and it turns out it sounded like the phone conversations that they were able to intercept, supposedly, sounded like, by experts at the very least, to be completely false and completely made up.
Also, I will say this is something I talked about earlier, is the types of lies. I ran into friends that have this issue too, when I argue with personal friends, where people will, I'll say something like, well, the Pentagon said this, or Israel released this, and they'll go, oh, are you telling me they never lie? Remember that there are different types of lies that people can tell. Somebody saying like, oh, we didn't mean to hit that, or we didn't mean to strike that target. That's like a lie that is possible, because it's like, well, you know, they did shoot something, they admitted to shooting something, they didn't want to do the, right? Like you can kind of see like, you know, this lie is probable. People completely and totally fabricating evidence from nothing, that is a far bigger and different type of lie. And I think that you need to see examples of that happening that are similar to that, and not just say, and not just say that because they lied about this other thing or they didn't fully tell the truth here, they would totally fabricate this piece of evidence. That's a much higher standard of lying. That's not to say that Israel didn't fabricate that phone call. Like I said, I don't even know if I would trust calls leaked like that, you know, out of hand, just immediately coming from the IDF. But that would be if they did completely fabricate that, that would be a severe lie to tell, and it would severely damage their credibility in my eyes. I would be careful about that.
Sounded like, by experts at the very least, to be completely false and completely made up.
Yeah, but Hasan, I don't think, syntax in all honesty, I don't think, even as you're saying all this, I think you're a smart guy.
Piers, let me finish.
I think you've looked at all of this, and I think in your heart, you know this was probably not an Israeli airstrike. And I'm just curious why you would, instead of admitting that as facts change,
that is
your
not
opinion
what I'm
changed.
saying. That is not what I'm saying at all.
I don't understand why you would double and treble down when the evidence is pointing the other way.
You're asking me to be on your show. Do you want to talk?
Yes.
If you're asking me to be on your show, and I want to be on the show, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, somebody in Kick Chat just said that. I don't know if I've said this verbatim, but this is like one of the biggest things that I wish people would consider. Think of the points of failures for a lie. How many ways Israel lying could be disproved from the outside? Yeah, that's why I was saying that, like, for Israel to lie, for instance, about shooting a missile into this area, like when there's like a million different videos and everything, for them to lie about that, they could get caught so easily. That would be an insane lie to tell. That would be really, really, really bad to tell that lie. And then people will be like, oh, well, didn't they lie about this particular thing? It's like, okay, yeah, but they could hide that a lot easier. To lie so brazenly about something so publicly viewable, that would be pretty insane. Now, they could still be incorrect, or they could be lying about some things. Just things to consider, okay? Just open your minds, your brains, okay?
Yes. If you're asking me to be on your show, and I want to be on the show, thank you so much for having me on your show. Let me explain exactly what I said, and let me explain to you why I think still, to this very moment, until there is a third-party investigation that is concluded by the UN, the International Criminal Court, or specifically a forensic analyst that looks at the situation, is allowed to be on the ground. This is not just my perspective. This is B'Tselem as well, which is an Israeli organization that has also demanded a third-party investigation occur. I am not going to conclusively say that this was not Israel's fault.
I don't expect you to.
Because I just gave you.
Dustin, you underestimate how incredibly good they are at fabrication? No, my dude. No, stop.
Not because I'm a propagandist. As far as me being a propagandist goes, everyone is a propagandist. I'm just honest about it. You're a propagandist. We have our biases.
I'm curious who you think I'm a propagandist
for. Honest about my biases.
Who do you think I'm a propagandist?
It's insane for Hasan to say that. Now, to be clear, let me say a couple things. Propaganda is not bad, okay? Propaganda means that you're releasing news that's probably favorable to a certain side because you're trying to drum up support for that side. But propaganda can take all sorts of, shapes and forms. For instance, let's say that we have like a Navy, Top Gun. We can say Top Gun is propaganda, right? Something that shows our military in a good light, makes people want to go and fly planes, makes people want to join the military. Top Gun is absolutely propaganda for the US military. I think explicitly so. I think they ask the US military if they can use their planes, and I believe that part of the U.S. military agreement with films that want to have access to U.S. military equipment is you can't show the U.S. military in a bad light, right? So if you want to fly our planes and shit, that's cool, but the story can't be about how like the president is trying to kill, civilians or whatever, right? Some crazy shit like that. So in a way, it's propaganda. Propaganda is only bad when it's a lie, okay? And Hasan is using the lie version of propaganda here, that you're selectively telling certain facts to push a narrative. That is horrible. That is not good propaganda. And
I don't like that all forms of propaganda are just kind of like taken and thrown together. It's like, oh, it's propaganda. Like, yeah, there's a difference between like a certain type of propaganda that just makes your side look good and like Russian propaganda that's showing Arma 3 footage or like lying or fabricating stories. Those are two totally different things. Hasan has been leaning into this quite a bit. Hasan has been leaning into this quite a bit. This idea that he just like does propaganda for his side and he doesn't have to like be honest or tell the facts exactly 100% correct because everybody else does it. It's very scary. It's the Russian version of how they do propaganda, where they say like, oh, well, we lie because everybody else lies. It's very, 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 very scary.
Propagandist for?
Who do I think you're propagandist for? Whichever every media person is doing propaganda.
But who for? I've got to be doing it for somebody.
You think it's a bad word? I don't. That's just the difference. This is a semantics
I think it's actually quite a serious charge.
uninteresting.
Hasan, I think it's a serious charge to level, not as a podcaster, but as a journalist who's broadcasting around the world, who has a reputation, I believe, for being fair and impartial, actually, on these issues. It's quite a charge to just say, I'm a stenographer for the Israeli government or I'm a propagandist. I don't think there's any evidence that I'm either of those things. I'm curious who you think I'm doing
While
the
we're
propaganda
having this
for.
conversation, 3,000, Piers, while we're having this back and forth, 3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered.
I look out for these types of conversational tactics so much now. Anytime I hear people do this, I very immediately start throwing up red flags. When you're refusing to engage with a question or you like pivot into weird stuff like this, or if you have an inability to directly and somewhat concisely answer a question, I immediately assume that you are functioning in bad faith and you're trying to sell me something different than what's factually correct. There's something else going on. Hasan does this a lot.
3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered in the last incursion into Gaza. I feel like this is an incredibly selfish, self-centered conversation to have. You asked me to be on here. You wanted to hear my perspective. I'm willing to give it to you. I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about Noam Chomsky style manufacturing consent conversations about how
what even happened here. Also, has he never seen Piers Morgan before? This is a very standard Piers Morgan interview. We watched him do this to Tate, to Pearl, to everybody. This is just how Piers Morgan, there's a style of, I don't know if I would call it a British news style, but I feel like I see British people do this a lot, where it's very railroady. Like, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you this question. No, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you this question, and you're going to answer this question because of this thing that I saw, right? It's very, and Piers has done this a few times in this conversation. It's like I don't know if it's a British style, but I feel like I see British interviewers do it a lot. There's probably some American interviewers do it, but Piers is very, very, very good at this style of conversation. I feel like Hasan should know that coming into this.
how the media is operating in the behest of capital.
You were the guy. Listen, you were the guy that called me.
There are dead people.
Listen, Hasan, I only asked you because you're the guy that called me a propagandist and called me a baboon in a suit. I was curious as to why. You don't want to say who I'm doing the propaganda for. We'll move on. I agree with you. There's a bigger picture here. Let's move on.
I love the Hasan laugh. That's my favorite thing I wish I could take from him. The Hasan laugh is so good.
Doing the propaganda for. We'll move on. I agree with you. There's a bigger picture here. Let's move on. Let's take a short break. Hasan, let's take a short break. I want to come back. I want to talk to you about what happened on October the 7th. Get your reaction to that. Welcome back. Hasan Piker is still with me. Hasan, I want to just play you a clip of something that you said about the October 7th terror attacks, and in particular, the attack at the music festival, which killed 260 people.
Look at this guy. You know what shouldn't happen? Killing 260 people at a music festival. No, you're right, man. That just happened on its own because, bad guys wanted to do bad things. You're right. Dude, if they subjugated you to a open-air prison your whole life, you're going to break out eventually when you realize that there's no other way to get out of it.
I mean, it sounds to me there, Hasan, that you are...
Hey, Algomaster, thanks for being a tier 4 sub, buddy.
Are in some way saying they had it coming. Were you?
No, I wouldn't say that they had it coming. I think that Michael Brooks used to say, analysis is not justification. And while obviously civilian casualties and horrific barbaric acts that were committed on October 7th are completely unacceptable, the important thing to make sure that it never happens again is to analyze what are the conditions as to how it happened to begin with. And I think Ehud Barak is going to be on in a little bit as well, or maybe he's on before me. And I'm almost certain that while he has held the keys to the conversation and held the levers of the power in this conversation in many key and critical points, I would go so far as to say that he is among many others who also recognize.
I also really don't like, and Hasan has always had this problem, right? Even back on the Roush Royale days, I think this is one of the things I got so mad at. He rambles so much without answering a question. It drives me crazy when people do this. I don't know if it's like they're just dysfunctional communicators, like they're just not good at it, or if it's an intentional thing to obfuscate and avoid answering the question. I can't tell. I'm not sure. It's really hard for me to tell.
Recognize that the Bibi Netanyahu administration is responsible. This is not just my assessment. This is 85% of the Israeli population's assessment at the time. This is years and years and years of refusing to negotiate with.
One of my, I think I brought this up before. I think this was a teacher I had in high school. This was one of the things that I wish every single teacher in college and high school would do this. I had a teacher, I love that they did this. I think it was for my English class. I think it was AP English 4, I think. She said, when she assigned you papers, this is what she said. She said, this is the topic that you need to write about. And in order for you to answer the essay, the question, appropriately, your length is probably going to be 2 pages. That's what she would say. But the cool thing was that she never strictly enforced length of assignments. She just said that you probably need about this much to do it. If you could do it with more brevity, that'd be fine. But I hated, until that teacher, I never thought about how much I hated teachers that would just arbitrarily enforce, like, this needs to be 8 paragraphs, this needs to be 4,000 words, this needs to be 10 pages. It's like, what do I need to, why do I have to fit, like, just, what is the subject? What am I supposed to address? Let's start with that, and then we kind of like go from there. But I noticed for a lot of speakers, I notice a lot when I debate, because people speak slow and they're not concise. Just answer the question directly in as few words as possible and with substance. You don't have to word vomit out 50 million different analogies, metaphors, things like other peripheral facts. Just answer the question. I hate it when people do that. Hasan is a yapper, okay? He does this a lot, yeah.
Palestinian Authority. Don't take my word for it. Take
no, listen, I would agree.
Personal word for it.
I would agree again.
In a closed-door conversation with Likud members, he said that if you want to thwart any kind of Palestinian nation state, you must do everything you can to only negotiate with Hamas. We control how high the fire goes. He has given cash to Hamas by way of Qatar. There is no bigger fan of Hamas than Bibi Netanyahu, which I hope one day you can maybe interview, and then you'll ask him to.
No, I actually did interview him a few months ago, and I did actually spell out to him that there have been a lot more Palestinian deaths this year so far, up to the point of the interview, than Israelis, and what he intended to do about it. He said then he didn't believe in collective responsibility, which is...
What the f*** was this answer? Like, Jesus Christ.
Now this hot phrase in this whole crisis about whether you would hold all people in Gaza responsible for Hamas. Interesting to see if...
How many different people did Hasan evoke in that answer? There were like 2 or 3. One was Michael Brooks, one was another guy, and then was there a third person? Like, yeah, Jesus. You pronounce Qatar way better than this native Middle Easterner. True. I'm pretty sure if you just say Qatar, you're probably close. If you just say Qatar, you're close than most people. Just say Qatar. The end of the actual pronunciation is like Qatar or something. Qatar. I don't know. Just say Qatar, or just pronounce it. Yeah, dude, we're English. Who cares? You know, all that shit. The problem with that approach is that kids don't understand what it means to have a good answer to the topic, so they use word count to determine how complex the answer should be. Maybe, but I feel like if you're not ideologically drawn into one side, going back to the politics, I think that, like, if you like a certain person, you'll always like the way they answer because they're telling you what you want to hear. But I think other people in the middle, when they hear, because one of the compliments that I see a lot when I'm on shows is people say that I'm pretty concise, or I answer questions like with brevity, and they seem to appreciate that in comment sections that I see, rather than I'm gonna ramble for 2 hours for every single question that I'm asked. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let me back a little bit.
Responsibility, which is now this hot phrase in this whole crisis about whether you would hold all people in Gaza responsible for Hamas. Interesting to see if when they...
Can I ask you a
well,
question?
let me just finish my point. If they do then launch a ground invasion, it'd be interesting to see if they keep to that word. I'm not a defender of what Bibi Netanyahu has been doing in Israel. In the last year, his attack on the credibility and integrity of the Supreme Court, I think, has been a disgrace. And I think it has fractured society in Israel. I also think that it's caused so much social unrest and had such big protests that you could argue has taken the eye off the ball of the people who should have been defending the border because they've been trying to sort out what's been going on domestically, internally inside Israel. So I think it's a catastrophic failure of intelligence, of security, of defense, all of those things. I'll be amazed, frankly, if Netanyahu survives this. So I'm certainly not here to defend him, even if you do view me as a stenographer for his government. My question for you, I think, is this, is that I've had a lot of problems trying to get people on the pro-Palestinian side to separate two things. That you can say, as I believe and you believe, that the Palestinians have been maltreated for decades. That the situation where they are effectively, I mean, I don't even call it an occupation because Israelis aren't in Gaza. They pulled out in 2005, but they still control the ability of Gaza.
That is, this is why I call you a propagandist.
I'm just saying the phraseology is confusing to me because the reality is Israel exercises control over people in Gaza. It allows them in and out. It allows them to turn on the tap of water and so on and so on. I get all that. They don't actually...
Are you leaving? Be careful, don't die.
Live there because they can't live side by side with each other.
That's why it's called an open-air prison.
Right, I don't disagree with...
That's why they call it the world's largest open-air prison.
Yeah, but Hasan, I don't disagree with you. And I have pointed this out for a long time as a journalist. So we don't disagree about the appalling plight of Palestinian people. But the issue comes that if you can't separate that ongoing dispute between Israel and Palestine from the absolutely appalling barbarism of October the 7th, which was on a whole different scale to anything we've seen, where 1,400 people, Holocaust survivors, babies in their cribs, young women taken, tortured, abused, shot, beheaded, it was reported, and so on. If we can't...
What? Is everybody do we all graduate to doing the Tucker Carlson face? Do I do this when I'm on interviews? The Tucker Carlson face? Live Hasan reaction?
Look at that collectively, and with a general humanity and agreement that is an absolute atrocity, then there's something wrong with this. And I find that the tribalism on both sides is now so toxic and so frenzied that you get people who literally can't. We've had a bunch of actors, right, signing this statement saying they want a ceasefire in Gaza and calling Israel war criminals and so on. But they don't say a word about the Hamas attacks that precipitated this. And I find that really hard,
them, right?
really hard to accept.
But you what?
But do you agree with them? If they had said, for example, that October 7 attacks were brutal and massacres occurred, and then they said everything else, that Israel is committing war crimes, would you agree with them?
Okay, here's what I would honestly say about that. Is Israel not allowed to defend itself from the worst terror attack we've seen since 9/11? Is it not allowed to defend itself after 1,400 people in Israel are butchered in that way? And the question then, if you assume that they are able to defend themselves, as any free democratic country,
that is the Israeli State Department line, that is the IDF's line, that is the line that everyone
let me ask you
channeled.
this. It then becomes a question of how can they defend themselves? If their mission now is to get rid of Hamas, a terror organization that's committed one of the worst acts of terror ever seen, if that is their stated aim, then what they are doing is consistent with that, isn't it?
Jesus.
No. Here's why this is actually an abject failure, and this is not just my perspective on the matter. I'm just a dumb idiot with a Twitch stream who is live reacting to the news and trying to make sense of everything.
I hate that abdication of responsibility. It is so cowardly. Bro, you make millions of dollars doing political commentary. The difference in our mindsets is so crazy. I feel pretty bad when I get things wrong, where I fuck things up, because I make so much money now doing this. And I have so much influence. As silly or stupid as that sounds, as being just a YouTuber, but I mean, it's true. There are so many people looking to you for guidance on these political takes. For you to shirk all responsibility so that you can simultaneously make money being a political commentator while having none of the responsibility, it's one of the grossest and most blatant abdications of responsibility while still gaining all the benefits I've ever seen in my life. I hate that line. I don't know why he's been using it so much. He does it with Ethan too. Oh, we don't have any influence. Blah, blah, blah. God, I hate it. Oh, it's so cringe to me.
It's actually an abject failure, and this is not just my perspective on the matter. I'm just a dumb idiot with a Twitch stream who is live reacting to the news and trying to make sense of everything as it's ongoing. I usually have a policy of not covering breaking news, and sometimes that policy is violated.
I'm pretty sure Hasan almost exclusively covers breaking news. Am I wrong about that? I feel like almost every time there's breaking stuff going on, you turn on Hasan's stream and it's like the title is whatever the breaking news is of the day. But that's an unbelievable statement.
But not covering breaking news, and sometimes that policy is violated. But ultimately, I am not held up by the same journalistic standards, even though I think I do a much better job than most other news outlets in general. So let me just say this.
Yeah, there was like 1,000 comment clip, I think, or 1,000 comment thread when this exploded. Yeah. Wait, we'll do a live streamer reaction to Hasan saying that.
We usually have a policy of not covering breaking news, and sometimes that policy is violated, but ultimately I am not held up by the same journalistic standards, even though I think I do a much better job than most other news outlets. You said Israel has a right to defend itself. Absolutely zero people think that this is a ridiculous statement. However, how Israel is defending itself is collective punishment. Now, collective punishment in the form of depriving 2.2 million people of electricity, collective punishment in the form of depriving them of water.
I'd like to see your views on all of this after doing some decent research. There's strong claims on both sides, but with all the current ongoings, I'm getting more and more pro-Israel. Yeah, I think there's an Ayla tweet that, funnily enough, is kind of mirroring my position. I hope I'm not like mindful myself too much to like take a contrary position to people on the left, but I feel like the strongest argument that the left has is that Israel should have never started there in the 40s, which like maybe is like an okay, like if we go back to that time period, we might say like this is probably a bad idea, but it really does feel like past that the arguments in favor of Israeli action are so much stronger than the arguments in favor of the rest of the Arab world in that region or the Palestinians even. Like, it seems like overwhelmingly favor one side, but I might feel differently when I start like digging into the individual conflicts. We'll see. Okay, yeah, we'll see.
Of food, collective punishment of...
What about settlers in the West Bank? I still haven't heard good rationale for why Israel like is so aggressively supporting settlers moving into the West Bank, other than just territorial expansion, which seems bad. But there might be, I'd have to look at, but okay.
Punishment in the form of depriving 2.2 million people of electricity, collective punishment in the form of depriving them of water, of food, collective punishment of in the form of 51 people dying.
Oh, shit. Fuck, I'm so sorry. I saw this quote in chat. And thoughts on from the river to the sea. Okay. A lot of people, I don't know if people know what this means all the time, but just so you guys have an awareness, when people are saying, when people say from the river to the sea, just so you know, if anybody's ever saying that as part of a protest or part of a pro-Palestine movement, from river to the sea means that they want all of Israel to belong to Palestine. They want Palestine to be completely ran by the Palestinian people, and for Israel as a state to be eliminated. That's what like from the river to the sea means. Like this whole area from the Jordan River to the sea is what they want. Fuck, I should actually find out where on this fucking map the Jordan River runs, I think. But that's what from the river to the sea means. It means the complete and total elimination of Israel. Just so you know. Yes, that is exactly what that means. The literal border with the West Bank. Okay, it's this thing here. This is the. Okay, maybe this is okay. From here to the sea. So the destruction or the elimination of the state of Israel, yeah, okay. Okay. It's getting popular, but don't you think it's a catchphrase? If you want to say that it's a harmless catchphrase, I'm not buying that, because when somebody has like a tattoo and people are going out and saying like, well, actually in 1949, there was one Panzer Division tank that had that logo on it. So if you have this, you're actually a Nazi. No, I don't accept that's just a catchphrase. If you say from the river to the sea, you're advocating for the elimination of the state of Israel. But that's fine. If that's a position you can have. Some people think that the state of Israel should be eliminated or shouldn't exist or should all be Palestinians. But just like own it. Own that position. We can argue about that. Don't pretend that you're saying something different, you know?
Food, collective punishment of in the form of 51 people dying in the West Bank, where, you know, there is no Hamas in the West Bank, and yet 51 people have died because in the West Bank, settlers that are occupying Palestinian territory in violation of the international law, settlers who are doing an act of colonial terrorism, and this is not my statement on it, this is international law, that are doing horrifying things by simply just existing there and maintaining the presence with an occupying force in the form of IDF, who is ritualistically humiliating Palestinians in a structure that B'Tselem, an Israeli organization, calls the permit regime, where every waking moment of Palestinians' lives in the West Bank are absolute hell, where they have no legal recourse.
That's not really as controversial as what other people say it means, which is to call for a cleansing the land of Jews, essentially for a genocide. That's where I've seen the complaints. If everybody was to call for a one-state solution, it wouldn't be as controversial. Well, maybe. I'm trying to give the most charitable framing of that. The least charitable framing is from river to the sea means a Jewish genocide in the Middle East. That's like the most extreme. But I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to give the most. I don't know. I don't think that a person in the West that's saying from the river to the sea, like Palestine, I don't think that person wants Jewish people to be genocided. So I'm trying to give the more favorable version of it. Is this Bonerbox?
Yeah.
Does anybody remember what I wanted to ask him earlier? I had a specific question for you earlier. Oh yeah, I just had a question. I'm just curious. This is, I mean, obviously it's related to this, but it's more like in a vacuum. Let's say that there was a, we'll say military/terrorist organization operating out of a hospital. You know that there are important operations there, but you know also that there are 400 to 500 sick people in that hospital. You've got to make a call on whether to bomb the hospital. You'll kill all the civilians, right? You do a knock bomb, you warn them, nobody leaves. They're like, nope, our people are here, they're sick, we're not moving for whatever reason. Do you think it's still ethical in like a time of conflict to bomb that hospital, or do you think the collateral damage makes it unacceptable, or do you think there's some like calculation that has to happen there? I'm curious. I'm just curious what you think.
Generally, you're supposed to, you assess whether collateral versus military advantage. Like that's what they mean by proportionality, right?
Sure.
Like whether or not. I think legally, I could be wrong about this because I've been a while since I've read because I read some case law on like the Gaza War 2008. I think they said in that one that that as soon as you make a civilian facility to a terror launch pad or whatever, you are kind of stopping it from being a civilian location, and it's kind of fair game.
Do you think so? Okay, go ahead.
So legally, I think that's why they can do that. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily.
Oh no, I'm not even. Sorry, that's why I said
and
trying to like get away from the actual argument. I'm just curious, like morally, how do you think about that? How do you feel about that?
I have no idea. Like, how do you even start? Because, yeah, I don't know. I guess I get the principle that if you have to accept some collateral to achieve your military objectives, but if the person doing the attacking is also dictating their own military objectives, you could set yourself like a really high goal, and then that means quite a lot of civilians are just like, you increase the number of civilians that is acceptable to kill, right? So when Israel in the past said that they wanted to stop rockets being fired at them, and they wanted to limit Hamas's capabilities to do it again in the future, that's one goal, and there's a level of collateral acceptable for that. But now, if they're saying they want to root out Hamas completely and wipe them off the face of the earth, they're raising the threshold even more. So, yeah, I don't know. I think usually when I read these cases, or the one that I read a while ago, they spend more time talking about how many war crimes Hamas commits by turning all the civilian buildings into military bases. But yeah, so it's quite hard. I know that, those roof knocks, by the way, I think you haven't seen much of that for this one, I don't think, or it's not been spoken about. That's kind of because they've been often deemed to be ineffective. The roof knocks basically have been criticized for not really being able to send a message to get people out of a building. They're more likely, they're just as likely to cause confusion or panic, and they're just as likely to be mistaken for just a bomb that went off next door or something. So they tend to not be very effective.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome back. Good to have you here.
Yeah. How's life been? Wait, didn't you like quit streaming to go work a normie job, and now you've got like way more viewers because of the terror stuff? How's that working out?
I was never doing a normie job. I was just doing video essays.
Oh.
But yeah, I kind of held the fort for your little chat refugees. I feel like that's the role that they said I have now.
Yeah, true. How do you feel? How do you feel about everything that's been going on?
I don't know. I'm just trying. Like, I actually don't know what needs to be done now. You know, like so I know that Israel have basically decided that like it doesn't matter about the future that much. We just need to like give Gaza chemotherapy, and the cancer is Hamas. That's kind of how they see it. I do really worry about whether or not that's achievable, given how much they failed at doing that in Lebanon with Hezbollah, and also what do they do after? Do they have any intention of occupying Gaza and reestablishing the PA? I haven't heard much of that. So
I'd like to have like some kind of workable solution, I guess, going forward into debates. So I'm going to do probably like 1 or 2 full days of like just following all the different conflicts, because there's so much back and forth that I want to read about, just so I can have like some more context for things that have happened in the past. But so I'm just saying that to say that my opinion on this might change. Here's where I currently stand. Okay, I feel like there should be a 2-state solution where the borders that Palestine has are fully recognized and the states can run fully autonomously, meaning without Israel's supervision of security, airspace, of anything. They can do their own shipments, they can have a military, whatever the fuck they want, and that Israel and Palestine, the surrounding Arab states, including Iran, and the United States can come to that agreement. But then the agreement is that if terrorist attacks or something comes from Gaza or the West Bank, like NATO or the United States is authorized to just come in and completely shit up. So because I feel like the biggest issue that Israel has is they're worried that if they turn over security to Palestine, that like it's going to get worse and then they're going to get fucked. So I feel like Israel needs like an external security assurance to ever feel okay doing that. Now, realistically, I don't know if the United States ever wants to be directly military involved in that region, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this whole thing has definitely turned me into more of like an American exceptionalist. I think even if it goes perfectly according to Israel's plan, I don't think their population can be expected to push through like a peace process by themselves. I think they need like a big daddy America to kind of drag them kicking and screaming to the table, and probably the same with Palestinian leaders as well.
I feel like the United States
that's the only way to me.
We have a lot of soft support for Israel. I feel like if the U.S. political will and the U.S. leadership was there, I think we can force Israel to come to the table. And especially if Israel does a huge ground invasion of Gaza and they fuck shit up, I feel like Israel should be able to bring Palestine to the table. And then hopefully with some kind of leadership, we can bring other Arab states to the table. But I don't know. I don't know like what the appetite is right now in Washington to even solve a problem like this, or how big of a concern it is, just given that everything else is going on. But yeah.
I think I don't know, thinking about long-term solutions now, I think is kind of pointless, because I think what happened on October 7th was completely unprecedented and unpredictable, right?
Sure.
What's going to happen next week is also going to be completely unprecedented and unpredictable, probably.
I agree. I do really like that Biden echoed the issues that like we made really poor choices after 9/11, and we don't want to make those same poor choices today. That was a very mature and good thing to say. Hopefully that carries forward, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's weird because every time I watch these IDF guys talking about doing interviews and all that, they all just sound really like wired and scary with how, because I guess it's hard to see whether or not they're being like reasonable in their response.
Sure.
If you're talking about criminal stuff, by the way, I know that in the past that like Israel have been criticized for like violating Geneva Accords and all that shit by or whatever they're called, Geneva Convention, by not allowing water through and shit like that. So yeah.
Do you know how true? So before I go do more reading on that, do you know how true it is that Israel controls their water? Because I've seen a lot of varying things that like actually they only control like 10% of the water that goes into Gaza, and they've got desalination plants and other things that they run on their own. I also saw a bunch of reporting on how there were issues with Europe, like the continent of Europe, that a lot of countries had donated over $100 million for like water desalination plants and water processing plants in Gaza, but that Hamas will just dig up all the pipes and they just use them for rockets. Like Hamas literally videotapes themselves doing it. So then people are like, well, fuck, do we even help you with your water plants? Or do you know anything about any of that? Or
that last part's true. It's not even water. I think generally when aid projects come into Gaza, they get kind of like commandeered for military stuff by Hamas. That's really common. I don't actually know that Israel controls how much water Israel controls exactly. I do know that basically everyone in Gaza right now is saying we need water. That's like the big thing. So And I know that Israel, didn't Israel turn it back on in the south? But
I don't know.
Actually, but no, I think they did, but it's all contaminated, so they don't have power for desalination.
Mm-hmm.
And I think power is mostly controlled by Israel. I think.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I've just been focusing on trying to do like history stuff now, just because talking about going forward is just like kind of hopeless. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
yeah. I guess we'll see what happens. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Have a good stream.
All right. I love you. Be careful, babe.
Bye.
Somebody is mentioning like why we don't have desalination plants or desalination plants. Desalinating water is easy. We know how to do it. It's not like a technology advanced process, but my understanding is as of today, it's still incredibly energy intensive. Like I don't even know if we desalinate water in California. I think we get water like all the way from like Washington or Oregon. Like it's cheaper to bring water in that far away than to run a desalination plant. They're incredibly energy intensive still, is my understanding. But I say we, sorry, I'm in Miami now, but we have, is it Ogallala? I don't know what the water table is underneath Miami, but somebody in YouTube chat earlier said, do you think most people who are against Israel are anti-Zionist or anti-Semitic? Also, why do you think Jews have been such a target for so long? I'm going to try to be more careful about this. I need to be a little bit more foreseeing, I think, a little bit more prescient about what happens in the future. So I would say there's a huge difference between being anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic. I think the majority of leftists, non-Middle Eastern and non-Arabic and non-Islam leftists, I think are just anti-Zionist. They're not anti-Semitic. But I would say you need to be very, very, very careful because I feel like anti-Zionism, as I've seen on Twitter at least, anti-Zionism can bleed into anti-Semitism so unbelievably fucking quickly. Like if you criticize like hood culture or gang culture or rap culture, that can bleed into racism very, 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 very quickly. Just as a heads up, yeah. Palestinians are Semites. That's not what anti-Semitism means. Technically, I think the Semitic people, include a huge area of the Middle East, which I think does include Palestinians, but I think anti-Semitism just refers to anti-Jewish stuff or whatever, yeah.
51 Palestinians have died, and that was before the Ramallah, the Ramallah protest that happened last night, and the Israeli forces were opening up with live fire on protesters last night. So who knows what that death toll has become? This is all a product of Israel being an apartheid state. This is a.
Someone in chat linked a Reuters thing saying water access in Gaza before this conflict was already below the WHO minimums, and the situation has clearly only gotten worse since. I just want to put that out there since I said kind of the opposite earlier, or I questioned it earlier. So, okay.
This is all a product of Israel being an apartheid state. This is a violent apartheid state. There is no way to be a peaceful
Hasan,
apartheid
let me ask you
state.
this.
It is a violence. It is a violence required for its maintenance.
Okay, listen.
And that violence is frustrating people.
I hear you.
That violence is radicalizing people.
But here's
Hold on. As far as Israel, as far as what Benjamin Netanyahu has done, as far as the war government, what they have done, Piers, going in.
Sorry, hold on. Mike asks, do you think calling for Israel's destruction is only anti-Zionist, not anti-Semitic? The logic for it is the same as calling for the destruction of any settler colonial state, yet the U.S. and Western Europe don't seem to be facing similar calls. Because first of all, the U.S. does face similar calls, not the U.S., but Canada does with their indigenous population. So be careful for that. But no, I don't consider, even if you are advocating for the full destruction of Israel, I don't think that's necessarily anti-Semitic. Okay, listen, I'm glad I'm getting pushed on this because people got mad when I talked about like Nick, and I don't think he's a Nazi back then, blah, blah, blah. I would say the same thing here. The driving force behind why people want to get rid of Israel, if you're a leftist, isn't because they're Jewish. It's because of who U.S. foreign policy supports and what U.S. foreign policy dictates and what the West supports, okay? Now, to you, if you're a Jew, it might not be any different. You're like, F you. Whether you want to destroy my country or kill my people, it's the same shit. And that's fair. But the feeling that you have from their actions doesn't really tell us what the driving influence of what's influencing their beliefs or actions are, okay? I think it's important to do that, yeah.
As far as what Benjamin Netanyahu has done, as far as the war government, what they have done, Piers, going into Gaza and bombing Gaza and killing 3,480 Palestinians so far in Gaza, 1,000 plus children out of all of those casualties, 22 hospitals being bombed, a bakery, the only remaining intact bakery being bombed yesterday.
I really don't like the children talking point. I know it's used a lot because the population is so young, but like a 16, 17-year-old male with an AK-47 in their hand, you know, getting killed is going to be called a child being murdered. I would just be very careful with terminology. I don't like terminology like that. I think like you can have, like, clearly in this region, child soldiers are a thing, but yeah.
These are horrifying crimes that you would openly say are horrifying and unjustifiable when Russia does it, but when Israel does it, Israel has a right to defend itself. This is identical to the same talking points that I've heard from every Israeli administration official.
Also, ex-Trinidad X, who seems to generally fall pro-Palestine in my chat, or anti-Israel, but also seems to link a lot of sources. He says that the water pipes that Hamas was digging up were unused water pipes from a vacated settlement, not EU funded. He wants you to know that in chat. There you go.
Same talking points that I've heard from American politicians championing the exact same talking points. It's the same thing that I've heard from everyone else in the media. You might have been against the Iraq war and you use that, but you're using that for evil, in my opinion, at this point. If you are not sitting here and condemning those...
Oh, Irk might have said that too. Okay, sorry. Hold on. Okay, I can't pause Hasan's answers. They always take like 2 fucking minutes. So let me rewind and listen. We're not gonna pause and answer anything. Okay. God, fuck, it takes so long to say. Okay.
Going into Gaza and bombing Gaza and killing 3,480 Palestinians so far in Gaza, 1,000 plus children out of all of those casualties, 22 hospitals being bombed, a bakery, the only remaining intact bakery being bombed yesterday. These are horrifying crimes that you would openly say are horrifying and unjustifiable when Russia does it, but when Israel does it, Israel has a right to defend itself. This is identical to the same talking points that I've heard from every Israeli administration official. It's the same talking points that I've heard from American politicians championing the exact same talking points. It's the same thing that I've heard from everyone else in the media. You might have been against the Iraq war and you use that, but you're using that for evil, in my opinion, at this point. If you are not sitting here and condemning those acts of war crimes, those acts of violence, those acts of collective punishment.
Well, I would say to that I think the death of any child in this conflict is horrific, absolutely horrific. But the question comes down to me that after an act of terror, as we saw on October the 7th, Israel should be able to defend itself and should be able to go after the people that perpetrated that, who live amongst civilians.
It's so fucking windy here. Fuck, that's annoying. Somebody emailed me and said that is it caulk on your windows is bad if you hear the wind. I wonder if I should like ask my apartment to look at that, or maybe I can do something like, I don't know. Ugh.
In Gaza deliberately. And the question for me becomes down to what is proportionate? I don't know the answer, Zen. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what that answer is.
I do know the answer to that. Last night I had Dr. Ofer Kassif, an Israeli Knesset member who was expelled, suspended for 45 days for saying what I believe is the truth. Championing the exact same position of the Haaretz's editorial board. There are a lot of thoughtful people, a lot of formative Holocaust scholars, a lot of historians that all agree on the same point. The reason why violence that even penetrates through the Israeli security blanket that people thought existed, that penetrated through that Iron Dome, the Iron...
It's annoying how he pronounced the names with an accent, but it's the wrong one. I have no idea, but...
blanket that people thought existed, that penetrated through that Iron Dome, the Iron Wall, if you want to call...
He speaks another language though, right? But he speaks another language, but I don't know how good his like Turkish accent is, or I can't evaluate that.
All at that is because of years and years of oppression and years of violence, which is a necessity to maintain an apartheid state. And this has to stop. There's only 2 ways out of this. Either you engage in full-blown ethnic cleansing, and if you listen to the likes of Smotrich, or if you listen to the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir, and these very unfavorable, unpopular, far-right figures, if you listen to Netanyahu and his Likud government, they say that they are interested in going in that direction, the ethnic cleansing direction, the ethnic displacement direction, or the only way out of this for a real solution is to move towards peace, to genuinely end the blockade, to end the apartheid, to end the occupation, and create a pathway towards citizenship for all people with a right to return for all 14.
Oh, keep in mind, that's another kind of like scary thing for Israeli people is like Hamas and I think maybe even Palestinians in the West Bank. If you're worried about like or if you think about the one state solution, my understanding is the big objection to the one state solution is if we have one state and everybody has an equal vote, that Arabs might start to vote disfavorably for Jewish people or might start to vote on policies that are going to hurt like the old Israeli citizens. But the scary thing about that too is that a lot of people who advocate for one state, I believe also are in favor of something called the right of return, which is where I think it's over 2 million, or might be more than that, over 2 million. They call them refugees, but a Palestinian refugee, it might just be that your great-grandfather is from like Palestine and you live in the UK for your whole life, but they call you a refugee. I don't know why they do that. But like basically, is it 4 million? Somebody said 7 million. It's over 2 million. Maybe it's 4 million Palestinians would actually come back to the one state. And now you've got even more, I say Arabs, Palestinians today don't like to be called Arabs, but you'd have even more Palestinians voting more disfavorably, arguably, towards like Jewish or ex-Israeli people. Yeah, so, but that's another thing that Israeli people worry about when you're talking about like right of return. So, yeah.
15 million Palestinians, 5 million of which live under Israeli occupation. It's brutal. And then the rest living in diaspora. These are not unreasonable requests. These are requests that understand the dignity and the humanity of one side and does not simply treat them as their colonial subjects. And it's the only way to create permanent security and prosperity.
Nobody likes to be called Arab? Yeah, that might be true too. If you have Iranian friends, call them Arab. Persians hate to be. I've made so many Persian friends recently. I've learned so many weird slurs and Majus and all sorts of crazy shit. Persian people are very similar, I feel, sometimes to Turkish people, and that when they're in other countries, they think very, very, very highly of themselves. It's very funny. I think that's very interesting. But it was just, yeah.
They're colonial subjects, and it's the only
Persians don't even speak Arabic, though? Yeah, I would say you can call them Arab just to trigger them, but they're not Arabic, technically, yeah.
To create permanent security and prosperity in the region.
If it was as simple as that, I'm sure that would have happened already. I would say this. I agree with a lot of what you've just said. Not all of it, a lot of it. I don't think you can ever achieve peace now with Hamas controlling Gaza. I don't think you can achieve peace with Netanyahu in charge of Israel, actually, after this. I don't think his own people will want him to be in charge of Israel down below when they examine exactly how this...
Remember, Pierre's question was that what was a reasonable response to October 7th? Hassan's answer is to give Palestinians everything, yeah. €6 donation from Azzy Frost. Google, Kingdom of Israel. Palestine was never anything but Gaza, so their expansion is territorial expansion under the reign of the Ottoman Empire. Sure, maybe, I don't know, okay. First time contribution, much love from Texas. That's from Pink Kisses. Wow, thanks.
This happened, but we will see. But Hasan, I've got to leave it there. Look, it's good to talk to you. You know, you're an important, influential voice to a lot of people.
Push back on that. Remember, Hasan, you don't influence anyone. You're just a random retard on YouTube, right?
And I think we have a lot of common ground, and there are some things that we disagree about, but I suspect it's not as much as you think. You know, I do think that the core problem here has got to get resolved in a way that's been completely ignored for decades. And until it gets resolved, until the plight of the Palestinian people is resolved, until all these young people in Palestine feel there's some sense of hope and they can get out of what effectively is, as you say, a prison camp, then nothing is going to change. I don't think it justifies
I've got
to finish it, but I don't think it justifies in any way what happened on October the 7th. But I do agree with you that until that core problem gets resolved, there will never be peace. Hasan, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Can you explain the difference between Israel versus South African apartheid? They don't seem like the same thing. So, as somebody with a shit understanding of both, apartheid in South Africa was legalized racial segregation in every sense of the word. Like very hardcore segregation between different races. Like if you were black, you couldn't run for government. You could, like, they were completely separated, and this is like enshrined in law. I think that in Israel, the Palestinian people or Arabs that live in Israel can have struggles sometimes, but to call it apartheid, I don't think I've seen, I know apparently even the UN does, but I don't think I've seen like a convincing argument for why it is like reasonable or comparable to South Africa to call to call anything in the Israeli-Palestinian situation apartheid. I haven't seen any reasonable arguments. I just saw it. But maybe I can read more about the UN thing, and there's a better reason for that. But Fox 11 has a video of this man's arrest. This report does not mention the details in my tweet below. That the family's home had mezuzahs on their doors. I only know what that is because of that Little Dicky music video, but...
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Over and over again, this is what the suspect was yelling as he was being taken into custody after reportedly breaking into a family home at 5:25 this morning.
The suspect broke into the residence, peer inside with 4 children.
The terrified family in Studio City calling 911, asking for help after they say the suspect yelled that he wanted to, quote, kill them because he reportedly said they're Israeli.
Suspect threatening to kill the PR due to the race.
The family is Jewish, but it's unclear if they're from Israel. Also unclear is how the suspect knew they were Jewish, since it didn't appear they'd ever seen him before. Meanwhile, the man, found only wearing underwear, kept on shouting facts and figures about Palestine and other comments not suitable for television. The average age of the Palestinians is 19 years old.
Okay. I hate myself. I hate myself that I'm about to do this, okay? I hate myself that I'm about to do this, all right? Because the other side never does this, all right? However, when we're looking at violence towards Jewish people as a result of all the Palestinian-Israeli stuff and the bad reporting on all of that, I think looking at huge protests and groups are really important. Looking at speakers and influencers and people on Twitter online and all that, I think it's really important, okay? To look at that and to say, look, you guys, look at what you're causing, it's not good, okay? I would be very careful in like looking at a guy like this and saying like, oh my God, like look, the Palestinians are attacking Jews because of these political reasons. It might have had a little bit to do with it, but this guy seems fucking crazy, okay? This guy just looks insane, all right? He's outside in his fucking underwear, right? Looks mentally ill as fuck, all right? This guy looks insane. Now, okay, so I'll say that. I'm also gonna say this. Because somebody accused me of not covering this story and being biased. I didn't go over this on stream, but I read the story off stream. In Illinois, a similar-ish crime happened from the other side. Illinois man charged with stabbing 6-year-old Muslim boy to death amid the Israel-Hamas conflict. So that was the headline for this, okay? But if we read the story, an Illinois man was charged with stabbing a 6-year-old Muslim boy to death and seriously injuring his mother. What police said was a hate crime linked to ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Joseph Zuba allegedly stabbed the boy 26 times with a military-style knife and his mother more than a dozen in the incident, which President Joe Biden said shocked and sickened him. The child's Palestinian Muslim, blah, blah, blah. Let me see if I can find this. Detectives were able to determine that both the victims of this brutal attack were targeted by the suspect due to them being Muslim. Okay, so this guy was actually their landlord and had been for a while, I believe. And the landlord came in and started stabbing the mom and the kid. Now, is it possible that he was actually driven because of this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and on the Israeli side, he wanted to commit violence against Palestinians? It is possible, and to the police's credit, the police says that they have evidence, I guess, that he was radicalized, it was politically motivated. But this is another thing where I look and I was like, this guy was like in his 70s and he wanted to stab like a mom and a kid. This guy seems fucking insane. Yeah, but yeah, I'll cover this. So the child 6 was taken to the hospital in critical condition and succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead. The mother was stabbed as well, 32 years old. I don't believe she's dead. She's expected to survive. But yeah, somebody accused me of being biased because I didn't cover this because it was an example of of Israeli on Palestinian refugee violence. But there you go. So you have one story here, you have one story from the other side. But for either of these, I would be reticent, not readily willing to say that these are like examples of this type of extremist violence. Maybe more will happen, we'll see, but yeah, just as a heads up. I don't know why Israel is tweeting weird shit like this. They who must be named. Hamas equals ISIS. Is this a unique picture that they like just photoshopped and put together, or does this meme come from somewhere else? Or
I hate that the leftist strategies do not acknowledge facts that go against their narrative. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. But listen, this is why like we are like the vanguard, okay? Liberals are the only defenders of liberal society, okay? We will be attacked on all sides by illiberal people. It happened to the SPD in Germany. It happened before the Hitlers, because I know we all like to talk about Hitler, okay? But like people on the left, on the far left, and people on the far right will both attack liberals, right? For the longest of times, people on the far right said that liberals were all communists. That's what they said in the United States. Commies, you're all socialists. Obama's a socialist. And now you've got people on the left saying scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds, right? It's all, liberalism gives way to fascism. So I think that, the liberalism is nice in that it's probably like, broadly speaking, one of the coolest and most effective, like economically and culturally prosperous ways to organize societies around these large, like liberal concepts. But yeah, liberalism has to do a good job at sticking up for itself, because holy people on the far left and the far right absolutely won't do that. And you have to be aware of that. Jesus. Liberalism tolerates those who want to destroy it. Yeah, but liberalism should be able to tolerate people who want to destroy us, but we should be able to incorporate them and keep them in line enough. Like, we should let Nazis and we should let Stalinists and MLs and Christian nationalists march, but like we have to, like, it's up to us to keep the guardrails on the system, right? That's all we could do. But Destiny, is not the problem then that people can't really unite on our common good in which to defend, since the common good is that there is no common good? I think that like, the problem is that like, different people have co-opted the good parts of our country and made them sound bad, and it's left. I think if you're a liberal, I think it makes you very confused about what to defend. So like, here's a couple of things. Like, one, I think that everybody should be incredibly patriotic. I think you should be proud of your country, even if you're left-leaning, right-leaning, or whatever. Like, national pride is really important, but that's like a concept that's almost universally hijacked by people on the right. If you say you're like proud to be an American, you're proud of your country, you love your country, like that's almost exclusively like a conservative position, which sucks. It shouldn't be. Everybody should have pride in their country to some extent. Another thing that's been kind of hijacked by the left is this idea like diversity is our greatest strength. Diversity is our greatest strength, unironically, in the United States, and is something that we should be unbelievably proud of. We can take motherfuckers from all over the world, of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all religions, and we can put them in the United States, and we can have them working pretty fucking well together. That is an unimaginable talent. It's allowed us to amass a lot of talent, a lot of capital, a lot of educated people, a lot of people with cool backgrounds, like people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these international people, and even big American companies. Like, these people want to come to the United States and work and build things and build companies and be cool. Yeah, that's a really good thing. But like, diversity is our greatest strength means it sounds like a cucked progressive thing where it's like we just want a lot of black trans women in our organization, right? So it's been hijacked by them. So yeah, it's challenging, but we have to do a good job as liberals for like advocating for the liberal world order, and we have to stop letting people to the far left and the far right like steal or hijack our slogans or our ways of being proud of ourselves, and letting them like relegate it to their own sides, I think. Yeah.
Tolerance with them. In this formulation, I do not imply, for instance, that we should always suppress the utterance of intolerant philosophies, as long as we can counter them by rational argument and keep them in check by public opinion.
Yeah, true, based. Yeah, whoever whoever wrote this, clearly DGG copying my thoughts.
Suppression would most certainly be unwise. Like, yeah, this is the I do not imply that we should always suppress the utterance of intolerant philosophies. So again, he's already making like but we should claim the right even to suppress them, for it may easily turn out that they are not prepared to meet us on the level of rational argument, but begin by denouncing all argument. They may forbid their followers to listen to anything as deceptive as rational argument, and teach them to answer arguments by the use of their fists. Now, to me, I read that as him saying it's intolerant behavior that should be suppressed, not intolerant words. That's how I read it. I don't know.
What about SOCDEM? I don't know. SOCDEMs are cool, as long as they don't all turn into socialists, but... Aren't you a SOCDEM? Yes, I would consider myself a social democrat. Who's ready for an AMA? As a thanks to all of you, all of our new followers, we're giving you a chance to ask Israel anything. Leave your questions in the comments. Yalla, let's do this. You're 74 years young. How do you do it? Age is just a number. Based. What is this timeline? Yeah, Twitter is more real life than you ever knew. Oh my God, I don't know what happened last weekend. I think I'm becoming like a massive aliens simp. Just like through like the feminist like
lens or examination, I really do feel like Aliens. I feel like Ripley. I feel like that was like one of the best woman protagonists I think of all time. She's like, she goes through struggles. She's not perfect. She encompasses like really good masculine traits, but she still has like her feminine nurturing side because she takes Newt under her wing and she like really cares about him or cares about her and everything. She's got like the motherly thing going on, and then like the parallels between her fighting the Queen Mother and everything. And it's just a badass fucking movie. Aliens is such an amazing movie. Oh my God, Aliens is such a fucking good movie. Fuck, I love it. And there are so many. Like, also, I have a massive appreciation for, I'm gaining a much larger appreciation for the sets and the set design and the puppets, because like none of this could be CGI'd, obviously, like back in the day. So all of this shit had to be worked on and designed. God, there are so many awesome shots. There are so many cool scenes. There are so many sick sets. There are so many awesome puppets. I love like the heat, what do you call the heat, not mirage effect, I don't know what you would call it, where there's like the blurry, yeah, this is such an amazing movie. Fuck, this movie is so good. I'm sorry. I like massively re-simped for this movie over the weekend. I started watching this movie. Fuck, it's so good. Oh my God, Aliens is like one of the best. I don't know if this aged well. Like, I don't know if you watched this today, if you hadn't already seen it, if you would like appreciate it or care about it or anything, but oh fuck. Did you like Prometheus? No, I hated Prometheus. Fuck that movie. What about Sarah Connor? Oh, from Terminator 2? Sarah Connor is like an okay female protagonist. She's just kind of like a little bit crazy and wacky. And maybe a little bit, one of the things I like about Ripley is she like, oh fuck, I don't want to get off into this too much, but like one of the, I heard this brought up before, or it might've been a personal conversation I had with a friend. One of the things that they've done to make female protagonists strong is they basically they masculinize them. They turn them into males. So something I notice is I really appreciate it when you've got a female lead that encompasses masculine traits, but is also still able to maintain her feminine traits as well. So for instance, in Kill Bill, I like the fact that she was still like a mom and she found her kid and she loved her kid, and that was like a big deal to her, and her being pregnant and that one shootout scene or whatever, it's all like a big deal. Even actually that one, she kills one of the assassins was also a mom, right? The black lady and her kid came home and everything. Yeah, I think that's cool. And I noticed this with Aliens. I just remember that Sigourney Weaver also in this movie as Ripley encompasses a lot of like kind of the nurturing feminine traits, but she still has like those really masculine traits. Yeah, I just think that's cool. As opposed to like basically taking women and then kind of like turning them into men. So like Captain Marvel is a really good example of that. That's basically like a masculine lead. Like all of the traditionally feminine traits of like nurturing have been completely edited out to make for the strong female lead. I think that's probably fairly common, but yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there are other examples of that too. The woman, the girl in the Star Wars movies, I don't even remember her name, but like that's basically like a woman turned male lead. Like I don't think she has like any of the traditionally feminine. Yeah. What did you mean by with a feminist lens? Oh, I just mean like analyzing the movie through that lens. But there's also like a ton of other cool things about it too. Uh-oh. Maya Higa, Destiny, can you counter why an ethnic state doesn't demand suppression of other demographics? I remember you arguing for this with white supremacy for America. Why is it for Israel? I think for Israel it's a bit different because Jewish people are genuinely like prosecuted throughout the world or persecuted throughout the world, or they feel like people want to eliminate them for being Jewish. So they've got a larger argument for why they might feel like they need some form of ethnic protection. Similar to like the arguments you make for affirmative action or something in the US. I don't think that white people as a group have that same issue. Maybe one day it could turn that way, and if it became that way, then we could talk about that, but yeah. I'm sorry, the last thing I will say, hold on, I'm sorry, I need to drop like 2 or 3 really hot takes quick on the alien universe, okay? I'm speaking with objective truth here. If you disagree, you're just wrong. A lot of people are going to disagree there because a lot of you are wrong, okay? Number 1, Alien 3 is a good movie. Fuck you if you think otherwise. Alien 3 was a good movie, okay? A lot of people don't like it for a variety of reasons. They're dumb reasons. Alien 3 is a good movie, number 1. Number 2, maybe not as good as Aliens or Alien, but it's still a good movie. It's still a solid movie, okay? Good conclusion to everything, okay? Number 2, every single other movie in the Alien universe besides Alien, Aliens, or Alien 2, and Alien 3 is dog shit. Alien Resurrection is obviously bad. Prometheus is a objectively dog garbage movie, okay? It is a horrible movie. Alien Covenant, Alien, all the other weird spin-offs are barely in the same universe. All of them are dog shit. And not like, well, Prometheus was okay. No, it was a dog shit, horrible movie, okay? Horrible movie. That. all of those things. And Alien Covenant and the other thing. Okay, because I see some people saying, oh no, the Alien Covenant is like, no. Horrible movies. Okay, sorry. Anyway. Alien vs. Predator, I would consider that to be kind of like an out of universe or different kind of movie. I thought Alien vs. Predator was actually okay. So was Freddy vs. Jason. That was a cash money movie. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Quick Destiny. Now say a food take. I don't have a controversial food take for you right now. I'm sorry. Oh, I ate because believe it or not, I do try to eat other things when I travel. I ate a totally fried soft shell crab. I thought it was pretty good, but also it was basically just like fried. So I don't know if that even counts as fish. But yeah, you know, there you go. I had that in Sweden. So even Israelis deserve to live. Even war has rule. Oh, it's just back and forth propaganda. Don't care. Jewish students at Cooper Union are in the library as protesters pound on the door. Cooper Union are in libraries. Protesters pound on the door. Where is Cooper Union? I thought you hated seafood. I don't hate seafood. I just wouldn't choose to eat it otherwise. I can eat like salmon and I can eat sushi. I can eat it. Like if you make like sushi with tuna or something, I can eat it. I would never choose to eat it. New York City College. Why is this video so short? I am embarrassed to say this, but I have not watched The Thing. I need to watch The Thing. The era of horror movies that I grew up watching was like, there was a whole like deluge of campy horror movies. Campy horror is what I grew up on. So like all the Freddy Krueger movies, all the Jason movies, all the Child's Play movies, Puppet Master, those types of things. Those are the ones, the era like right before that, which I think includes like The Thing, maybe like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like the Dracula, Vampire, all the classic stuff. I think that was like the era right before. I never grew up watching that era of horror movies. I grew up watching the era of like the campy horror movies. I don't know when The Thing came out, but I feel like that's like, I'm gonna guess 78. But I might be way off. I might be way off. Oh, okay, 82, yeah, okay. I missed this era of movies, yeah. Did you watch Tales from the Hood? No, but I did watch on HBO, I think it was, Tales from the Crypt. I think I watched everything of that. I even watched the movie of that. Tales from the Crypt was like the adult version of like Goosebumps. And they had that one weird guy who was like the narrator, who always like introduced every episode.
Poor little fellas.
This was also all like kind of like campy horror too, because this is like camp, yeah.
Of their childhood.
Yeah. This is our generation's Twilight Zone, is it?
Cenk, great to have you on the program. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I've been following your tweets with interest this week. You've been getting increasingly angry, I think it'd be fair to say. You said, I'm now enormously frustrated by US and Israeli government's barbaric acts in Gaza. I will not be shy in sharing that opinion on Piers Morgan's show today. Why are you so frustrated?
What have you learned from reading that post? Can you summarize its points? I mean, like, whoever wrote this, I feel like they're probably pretty on the pro-Palestinian side. I'm not gonna say it's like false or misleading, maybe, I don't know. But I mean, the point of this post was to point out that there are a whole bunch of ways, if you want to make an argument for the apartheid state, that Arab Israeli citizens or Palestinian or Israeli citizens and then people in the West Bank have totally different systems applied to them in order to determine how they can live their lives through education, through access to agricultural lands, through access to food and water, and through access to building permits, right? Which would be like a staple of apartheidness, right? Is the idea that you've got a different ethnic or national group that you're trying to systematically disenfranchise, to push them out of a territory or to give them less rights in an area. And then this post was just giving an example of, here are different ways that you would argue that apartheid is de facto in existence in the occupied Palestinian territories and Israel proper, because Arab Palestinians in Israel have different rights, arguably, and then in the West Bank, it seems extremely, Palestinians there basically run through different and more oppressive or aggressive systems than Israeli or Jewish people do in the West Bank. That's what this post is essentially arguing. There you go. So, okay.
Rated.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I didn't expect the framing that you put on this segment, and it's framing like that. That's disgusting. So I don't see what this has anything to do with anti-Semitism. I formed Young Turks in TYT with 2 Jewish friends who are some of my friends growing up. We've known each other and been brothers.
Thoughts on Cenk running for president? I think it's kind of silly, but maybe he's got like another plan, or is just trying to drum up popularity support or something. I don't know.
For over 40 years now. So I think what Hamas did is disgusting. I cry for those Israeli innocent civilians. But do I see you guys crying for Palestinians? I mean, Chris Christie was just on here treating it like it's no big deal because what, Palestinian lives don't matter? I think the real bigotry here is saying that Palestinians, we can kill 3 times as many of them already. And this is the appetizer. Netanyahu and his barbaric government.
What the? Wait, where's Mel at?
Is that?
Oh, was Mel with you?
No.
Oh, okay, have fun.
I've not even started the entree of murder and death and mayhem. They're about.
Wait, is this like for the week, or do you think you have to bring this much stuff like every time?
What's up?
Oh, is this like for the week, or do you have to bring this much stuff every time?
Well, do you order pots and pans?
Oh, did I? Oh, okay, cool, gotcha. You can use my fridge to store stuff and all that. You know that, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Be careful.
To do, and that's some already. And this is the appetizer. Netanyahu and his barbaric government have not even started the entree of murder and death and mayhem they're about to do. And that's somehow okay, killing 3 times as many Palestinian civilians, let alone the occupation.
I really, regardless of where you stand on either side, I don't think I like the comparison of number of people killed. I just don't think it's like, it means anything. Like, what if it was the case that the Iron Dome didn't exist and, you know, Palestinians were able to kill way more Israeli citizens or something? Like, does that change anything? Like, let's say it was the case that, you know, the IDF was brutal and came back in and like fucked people up. Let's say that Hamas killed, you know, 4,000 people. Would you then be okay with the IDF killing 4,000 people? Like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the numbers argument at all. I think it's a really bad, I just think it means much. Yeah.
Which is bigotry by definition. We say that everyone in the world can defend themselves, can have their own state, can have sovereignty, except the Palestinians. And the reasoning behind that is the Palestinians are what? They're what? The idea is that they are savages and that Muslims are too violent and cannot control themselves. So they must be occupied for 56 brutal, disgusting years. So I've had enough of the bigotry against Muslims and Palestinians, and I need you to speak out against that instead of covering every outrageous, atrocious action of the right-wing government of Israel and going, oh.
This motherfucker's hairline is on its last legs. Wait, who are you talking about? Isn't Cenk like 50? I think it's fine. Piers Morgan? How old is Piers Morgan? Cenk is 53. Piers Morgan is 58. I think their hairline is fine. What are you talking about? You guys are wild. Also, yeah, we're not supposed to talk about appearances, guys.
It's anti-Semitism. No, and there is global anti-Semitism. There's anti-Semitism here in this country. 2 synagogues were shot up, Pittsburgh and in Southern California. We fight against that all the time. But then whenever Israel is criticized, people go, oh no, it's anti-Semitism. No, there's real anti-Semitism.
Okay, Cenk, let me
respond. Instead of attacking that, all you guys ever do is hide behind the veil of anti-Semitism. Do you know why Palestinians might not like Israelis? Because they've been oppressed for 56 straight years.
It's funny because like Cenk has more like formalish media training than Hasan does. So Cenk and Piers, although this might be a different type of interview, I guess. We'll see how Piers Morgan approaches this. But like Cenk can probably play Piers' game a lot better than Hasan could, I would imagine, but we'll see. Proportionality, Abba says, proportionality has to be a factor. You can say it doesn't have to be 1-to-1, but at some number, you have to say this doesn't make any sense. If not 10 killed Israelis can result in 10 million dead Arabs. I mean, like, at some ratio, yeah, it would obviously be insane. But before we're at like 10-to-1 or whatever, I don't know if it factors in as much. I feel like the intentionality behind the killings is going to be a lot different. Like, let's say, for instance, Hamas breaks into Israel and they abduct and then they like rape and murder like 100, you know, baby children or something. right? And then let's say Israel identifies like 5 bases in, the Gaza Strip. They say, hey, you guys need to leave. We're going to bomb these things. They don't. And then they end up killing 5,000 Palestinians, of which 4,000 are civilians because they are kept there and 1,000 are militants, right? The ratio is way off. But I feel like the intentionality and the goal behind these two types of attacks, that's why it just feels hard to compare the number of people dead, because it's going to feel so much different based on the intention and the choice of targets and everything, I think. But again, I do agree. I do agree that at some point it would factor in, right? At some point you would compare it, but.
Let me respond. I'm not.
You know why Palestinians might not like Israelis? Because they've been oppressed for 56 straight years.
I hear you. And let me respond. I'm not you guys. I don't think I fit into any neat fit on this issue at all. B, I've actually covered this story, I think, more fairly than most people. I've had many pro-Palestinian voices I've given a huge platform for. They've been getting enormous audiences, from Bassem Youssef to others, and I've done that quite deliberately because I think these voices are important to be heard, including yours. I certainly wasn't accusing you, by the way, or your organisation of anti-Semitism. I have found it, as somebody who's always identified as liberal myself, I've found it very dispiriting to see people who call themselves liberals whose instant response, it seemed to me, to one of the worst terror attacks we've ever seen was to immediately side with the place where these attacks have been launched from. Now, I don't tar all Palestinians with the brush of being Hamas at all. And in fact, the sooner Hamas are out of there, the better for the Palestinian people and the world. But I just think the only human response you can have is, as you did, by the way, to your credit, is it was disgusting what happened on October the 7th. Now, the question then becomes, what is a proportionate response by Israel? Not just to the terror attacks of October the 7th, but obviously there is now a huge ongoing escalation in what has been, as you rightly say, a 56-year war, effectively, in varying degrees over that period. And that's where I think I'm struggling to see how a ground invasion by Israel, with all that would entail, particularly mass deaths of Palestinian civilians, how that is going to do anything for any peaceful resolution to this. I think it will have the opposite effect.
Yes. So let's say you one at a time. First of all, as you rightly point out, on Young Turks, we covered the atrocious actions of Hamas right from the get-go, and we condemned it as fully as anyone can possibly condemn it. Because not only are they killing those poor, innocent Israelis that didn't...
Wait, real quick. Someone in Kick Chat said, definition of a terrorist, someone who thinks killing civilians is okay to meet a political goal, i.e. Israel. I almost don't even like the word terrorist, because how we can talk about that is so broad, or can depend kind of. But I would say if you were going to have a definition for terrorist, I would say broadly speaking, or terrorism, broadly speaking, the explicit targeting of civilians or civilian infrastructure in a goal to terrorize a population to get them to respond in a certain way or act in a certain way. I'd say broadly speaking, that would be terrorism. Some people say, I think, that state actors can't engage in terrorism, or there can only be non-state actors. I don't think I necessarily believe that, but that would be the broadest definition of terrorism that I think anything more precise than that starts to break down or get weird. But
didn't do anything. Those little babies and the grandmothers, it's disgusting what they did. But on top of that, they're ruining the Palestinian cause. They've burned the moral high ground to cinders. And then on top of that, they smear all people of Muslim background like myself. And then it unleashes this bigotry of anti-Muslim bigotry throughout the world that I'm sick of. So screw Hamas and their barbarism, okay? Now, in terms of a proper reaction, yes, you need to get those hostages out. So now let's look at I'm going to suggest what to actually do. I'm going to be constructive. But first, let's look at the unconstructive solution that...
Would you say that Hiroshima was terrorism? So, bombing countries during wars, it's really hard to say what terrorism is there, because technically entire countries are going to be involved in the war effort. So, for instance, let's say that I want to go and bomb Detroit, or I want to bomb a city, because that city has a lot of civilian infrastructure, but a lot of that civilian infrastructure is manufacturing that's ultimately making things like engines or parts that are going in planes, right? I mean, that's a pretty integral part of the war effort. So
Is it a terrorist bombing to attack a place like Detroit or attack a place like Hiroshima or Nagasaki or Tokyo? That gets like, it gets so much more messy that in times of war, it's really hard to say if any sort of attack on one country to the other in major cities is an act of terrorism. Now, like if we got to the point to where like a country was bombing like little cities, right, or like a small town, you could argue that that's terrorism, I guess. But yeah, there are broad arguments that you could make in terms of targeting like a lot of civilian types of manufacturing or power plant, like yeah. Kirchbridge was an example of this as well. Was that the Ukrainian thing? Yeah, it's hard to say. Why do people equate targeted slaughter of civilians with collateral civilian deaths? How is it hard to see the clear moral difference? I mean, obviously it's different, David, but the conflating factors are that one, sometimes the IDF has done, I think, targeted civilian death, which is bad, and then actually really that's it. People conflate that to everything. But I do agree that like it is different for sure.
That Israel had, dropping bombs on residential buildings. 50 ambulances have been hit. 10 out of 25 hospitals don't operate anymore. The incubators are about to run out of energy. There's 45 babies that might die today. The parents I just read on CNN are writing the names of the kids on their calves, on their legs, so that if they are killed in a bombing and they're mutilated, they can find their bodies. Imagine writing the name.
That's pretty crazy. I will say also something that is like demented is all of the like people running around tearing down signs of like hostages. That is demented. If you're like a leftist, or if you're a Palestinian or Arabic or Middle Easterner or Muslim or whatever, if you're running around like tearing down the hostage signs, that's like demented shit. I don't know why the fuck anybody would do that. Like, yeah.
Name of your child on their legs so that you could find them in the rubble after Israel or any government drops a bomb on them. And I need the West to understand something. Bombs kill people. And do you know how they kill people? They incinerate them alive, or their heads explode. So,
Cenk, I shouldn't be laughing. I'm sorry. He's like being very sorry.
Understand something. Bombs kill people. And do you know how they kill people? They incinerate them alive, or their heads explode. So what happened in Israel was
real question. Why put the signs up in North America? It's probably just like a call to awareness, I would guess, right? Like, hey, this is happening. Care about this internationally, you know? There've been so many videos like this. This is just like demented. Why do this? Hold on.
Outrageous. This is fucking outrageous.
What's outrageous?
You.
Why don't you do something for Palestine? Why don't you do it? This is for Palestine. Who the hell is Palestine? Let us children, innocent people. Okay, what about the children in Palestine?
Doesn't mean that.
Like, what? It's just like so dumb. Okay, back to our good friend.
A disaster.
Heads blowing
explode.
up. Yes.
So what happened in Israel was a disaster and disgusting. But you have to be equally honest and equally outraged at the immorality of incinerating babies and grandmothers and aunts and uncles, which is what we're doing right now. America cannot keep sending aid for death and destruction. Enough of the occupation. End it today. End it today. It's monstrous. Okay, I'm going to get to
let me
the
ask you this.
solution.
I completely understand your passion and your anger. I completely get this. I, like you, want to see some resolution at the end of this horror that we're witnessing. How do you get rid of Hamas if you don't do it the way Israel are currently doing it? How do you actually eradicate what has become a nihilistic ISIS-style terror group who've quite deliberately, in my estimation, committed an outrage of such appalling scale that they knew that this would goad Israel into this kind of response? So why they did that, what is motivating it, who might be putting them up to it, who's helped them prepare for this, these are all questions we don't know the answers to yet. But it seems to me that Israel could, if it's not careful, be...
The scary thing is, and I don't even know if it's possible, like, I don't know if you can negotiate this beforehand. if the IDF really wants to go through Gaza and completely eliminate Hamas or claim to or whatever, try to, I think that's fine. Fuck it. But I think there needs to be an agreement in place where it's like, okay, listen, if you're going to go through Gaza and you're going to totally eliminate Hamas, you have carte blanche to do that, and then the blockade has to end afterwards. Because the main argument for the blockade being up is Hamas and terrorists utilizing, resources for terrorist activities. Well, if you're going to do an actual ground invasion to eliminate Hamas, then the blockade has to end once you're done. Because you yourself said it, the terrorists are gone. Otherwise, like, if it doesn't come down after this, if the embargo and the blockade and the security, if it doesn't come down after this, it's never coming down. There'd be no chance of it ever happening, right? And then at the very least, then we get something that moves us in a positive direction. Because right now, if Israel just burns through Gaza, kills all the people they say are Hamas, and then leaves, then everything stays the status quo, then it's just gonna happen over and over again, right? I feel like this should be the role of the US, call me an imperialist or whatever, but we should be setting those rules and using our soft power and force. Yeah, we should be trying to. But I think, I do think I need a more geopolitically oriented guy. We need to have one of these. I do think that, the US is very scared to make huge commitments to this area, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think it's because they're worried about actual World War III-ish shit happening. But yeah, the United States seems to be very scared when it comes to making major commitments or big utilizations of force in this particular region. But I can guess, but I just don't know much. I think the problem is I think the US and Israel are kind of on their own in terms of like making big gains here. Like, it's not like our allies in the Gulf benefit much from a strong Israel. I don't think they do. I don't think they care that much. I think Saudi Arabia is starting to care a little bit more, but I don't really think they give a fuck that much about like the stability of Israel, I think. So it's not like we have other allies in the region that care that much to work with us here. So, and then there's a lot of hugely potential downsides. But yeah, I think stopping settlement expansion would be the safest first step to show peace. Yeah, if not tearing them down, the settlement expansion, that just is like so horrible. I don't understand that at all. I haven't even for my pro-Israeli fans, I've not heard a good explanation given for the expansion of settlements. It's just so bad. I just super don't understand, yeah.
Being lured into a massive trap here. And I hope that is not the case. But I'm curious, how do you get rid of Hamas if you don't do it the way Israel is currently doing it, albeit with horrific collateral damage in the face of thousands of innocent Palestinians being caught up in the bombing?
Yeah. So let me give you a short-term answer, long-term answer. And a lot of people are not going to like these, but these are realistic ways that you minimize civilian casualties. You do what America did with the Osama bin Laden raid. We didn't go drop a nuke on Pakistan. We didn't go destroy 6,000 residential buildings in the middle of Pakistan. We sent in special forces. Is it more dangerous to the special forces? Of course. That's the point of special forces.
I think you have to be careful here because, were you in Afghanistan or Iraq? Lycan. I think he's listening to this stream. He'll hear me in a second. Wait, is he listening to me? Hey, Lycan? Okay, fuck it. Anyway, well, I was gonna say it's different because, like, at the very least, like in Iraq, like you're fighting an actual military. You're not fighting like a terrorist group. I say that like.
Both.
What?
Sorry, I'm behind both.
Oh, both what? Oh, you were in both. Okay. I would say, largely speaking, even though there were some aspects of guerrilla warfare in Iraq, I don't know if it was quite the same as like Vietnam in terms of like terrorist activity or fighting like total guerrilla warfare, whatever, right?
Constant IEDs, suicide bombers.
You think it was just as bad?
Not just as bad, no, but I mean same type. Like obviously we lost 60,000 in Vietnam, 5,400, 10,000, something like that in Iraq.
In Iraq, so, okay.
And Afghanistan.
Because I feel like pouring through like Gaza and fighting is probably going to be a lot more difficult than going through like places in Iraq.
It is, but Cenk is right about the point of special forces is to do operations in places where you can't just lay wanton destruction around.
True, but I feel like special forces operations are generally more specialized. Like, you don't send special forces in to destroy entire armies. You send them in to like accomplish pretty specific objectives, right?
No, they can do long-term engagement. Absolutely. Like, there will be individual missions, but like...
Special forces, just long-term engagement of destroying enemy, like widespread military forces?
South America.
South America? Really?
Yep. DEA shit? Those are special forces doing shit down there.
Huh. Okay, maybe. I don't know. Okay, back to our good friend Cenk.
Well, also remember, the other thing is that the Mossad, one of the most legendary intelligence organizations in the world, could also be doing that. So between...
The what? The Mossad?
The Mossad.
Well, I mean, clearly they missed all this shit coming out of Gaza, unless you don't believe that. Okay.
6,000 residential buildings in the middle of Pakistan. We sent in special forces. Is it more dangerous to the special forces? Of course. That's the point of special forces. Try to find the hostages. Does it look like Israel's trying to find the hostages? If I have a family member that's a hostage, I'm disgusted by what Netanyahu's doing now. How do you know they're not in the buildings you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the tunnels you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the hospitals you're dropping bombs on?
Israel's already sending special forces during night operations in Gaza. Okay, that might be true. I'm not sure. I haven't read anything about like the actual ground invasion. Maybe we could do a little bit of that tonight. Or I'm sorry, there isn't a ground invasion yet. It's still just like shelling and strikes and everything, I believe, right?
So if you want the hostages rescued, every rational human being can agree. This is not the...
Hold on. Destiny, you said before that if people feel like they're hopeless and there's nothing you can do to change anything, you will feel like violence is the only answer. Isn't that how the people in the Strip of Gaza are exactly feeling? Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. That they might feel like violence is the only answer they have right now. Yeah, I don't think I've ever disagreed with that, right? Still doesn't justify the violence.
How do you know they're not in the hospitals you're dropping bombs on? So if you want the hostages rescued, every rational human being can agree. This is not the way to do it. This is the way to do death and destruction for the sake of death and destruction. It's collective punishment. It's genocide against Palestinians, and the world has to speak out. So my way is not pleasant either. It involves a lot of folks dying on both sides. I understand that. Those are super hard choices. But go find Hamas. Go find the hostages. Go rescue them instead of wantonly.
I'm so curious. If somebody could link me this, I would love to see this. So is there any footage or is there anything online of a pro-Palestinian person talking about the difficulties of striking Hamas when they operate out of civilian infrastructure and maintain civilian presence around them? I'm so curious if somebody like Cenk or somebody like has addressed the best way to deal with that. I don't have a strong opinion like one way or another because I asked Lonerbox earlier what he thought about that. I don't know what the right answer is there, but I'm curious if these guys ever have answers to those situations. But because I feel like that's he's talking about it right now. I mean, kind of, but
either it involves a lot of folks dying on both sides. I understand that. Those are super hard choices. But go find Hamas. Go find the hostages. Go rescue them instead of wantonly, indiscriminately killing after killing. And let's be honest, when you drop a bomb and a kid's head explodes and a grandmother is incinerated, that is terrorism. Killing 3 times as many civilians as Hamas is terrorism. And it is the same if it is done by a government. Send in as many special forces as you got. We should send in whatever you got to actually do the job at hand instead of what Netanyahu is doing, which is to kill these people to send a message. And think about how unrealistic that is. And think about why his method has a 0% chance of working. How are the Palestinians supposed to rise up against Hamas? How would they prove they're against Hamas? Hamas ended all elections. Hamas ended democracy. So how are the Palestinians supposed to cry uncle? They're already crying uncle, but it's never enough for the bloodthirsty Netanyahu. No, more death of Palestinians, more babies killed. That's what his answer is. And it's this, and the United States of America, I'm running for president here. There's no way in the world I would allow this. Sending $105 billion. And it doesn't even go to Israel, Ukraine, or Taiwan. It goes to the defense contractors that bribe these greedy American politicians.
Wait, is our $105 billion support for Israel, is that going to defense contractors? I thought it was just going to Israel. Did we even approve that yet? Or 105 billion Israel, U.S. News. Biden asks to secure $105 billion for Ukraine, Israel, and more.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Wait, that is going to Ukraine and shit. Oh, I thought the 105 billion was just for Israel. It's for Israel. Oh, so wait, so was Cenk just like a little bit misinformed there, or?
Uncle. But it's never enough for the bloodthirsty Netanyahu. No, more death of Palestinians, more babies killed. That's what his answer is. And it's this, and the United States of America, I'm running for president here. There's no way in the world I would allow this. Sending $105 billion. And it doesn't even go to Israel, Ukraine, or Taiwan. It goes to the defense contractors that bribe these greedy American politicians and then get most of that money. And so the long-term answer is 1967 border.
I guess he's thinking because like if we're sending them like weapons, like 105 billion in like weapons and stuff, he's saying that money is going to defense contractors to build stuff, which is true, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, like, that's kind of a moot point, because let's say we just sent the money to Israel anyway. Wouldn't Israel then just turn around and buy from our defense contractors? Like, I mean, like, are they going to throw cash at them or coin? Or, I mean, like, I don't know.
And the biggest walls you've ever seen in your entire life. And no one's allowed to cross to either side. But the Palestinians get their state. It is unconscionable for them not to get their state. And if you're a moral person, of course you believe that the Palestinians are not the only people in the world that cannot govern themselves. If you say that, you are being, by definition, bigoted and a racist. We have to have a two-state solution immediately. If 56 years of occupation and brutalizing these people is not enough, is 57 years going to be enough? Is 156 years going to be enough? I'm asking Israel, not out of hate, out of love. So many of my friends that I grew up with are Jewish.
Oh wait, is this the whole interview? Or is this just gonna be them and they're gonna cut it off?
This is not good for them. This is not good for anybody. Please look into your hearts, look and be the moral people that I know you can be. I've been to Passover dinners where you pray for your oppressors. Now, it breaks my heart, but I gotta tell you, you gotta pray for those you are oppressing. And to say that you are not oppressing the Palestinians after brutalizing them for 56 long years, you're kidding yourself. And as a friend and an ally, I'm trying to get you to wake up and snap out of this trance. You cannot keep doing this. It is ruining your moral fiber.
Jesus. Lawson Harrison donated $20. Bless Cenk's heart. He got this preachy on Stitch and Adam about Rittenhouse. I don't know how well these rants will serve him in a serious political career. I would say he's just like doing this because he's like running for election and like having like the soy screaming moments is nice. But I think Cenk is actually just, he's always like this.
Cenk, Uygur, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sorry it was your first appearance on this program under these circumstances, but I hope it won't be your last.
Oh, was that it?
An important voice in this, and I do appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much.
Oh, geez.
Thank you.
Well, he got to say what he wanted, I guess, yeah. Oh, hi, what's up?
Hey, did you watch the Cenk Uygur interview?
Yeah, I sure did. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you about it. I noticed a bit of, like, maybe hypocrisy in his arguments. Okay. So he basically said he's against the bombing, right? So he's against Israelis bombing military targets because civilians are in the area.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, he said he is in favor of Israel, defending themselves and trying to attack Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
And he proposed a strategy, because he's an expert military strategist, that they bring in their special forces, whatever the fuck that means. And he recognized there'd still be civilian casualties. So, you have a line to Cenk, do you not?
Not that much, no. I've talked to him one time on stream before, but...
Okay, that's unfortunate. I was wondering if you'd be able to, contact him for a debate or something, because I'm just really curious what amount of deaths he finds acceptable, because clearly he does find a certain amount of deaths acceptable, because he proposed a strategy that he would like to see where Israeli special forces come in with their special forces tactics and target Hamas, but he still recognized there would be...
I think the overall point he's making is he feels like Israel strikes too indiscriminately into Gaza territory, and the civilian casualties could be minimized if the operations were more targeted or done with special forces instead, is what his overall point is.
Yeah, if you actually look at the projections There are at least estimates where projected civilian casualties would be greater with a ground invasion versus bombing.
Yeah, that would be a point to bring up. I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a variety of reasons for that. One of the reasons is it's expected Hamas would encourage civilians to stay there to make it more difficult for the IDF, because they're known to use human shields. They also use chemical weapons, so they're probably going to make like homemade mustard gas or bleach bombs, stuff like that. That's obviously going to kill civilians. IEDs, mines, those also kill civilians, and obviously just unintended, civilians getting shot because, somebody sees something move and they think it's like an enemy target.
Yeah, I got the point. What's I got the point. Okay, so what's so what's the point or whatever?
Well, I was just wondering if you disagreed with any of that, because, again, it's weird how he went on and on about how the bombing is horrible and it shouldn't be done, but then he recommended a ground invasion. But there's more.
Well, he didn't, to be clear, he didn't recommend
casualties.
the ground invasion. He recommended special forces, targeted operations. That was his point.
What the f does that?
I don't know. You have to argue with him about it, but I think that's his point. I think his point is understandable, right?
No, I don't think it's understandable at all.
Wait, you don't understand at all what the point he was trying to make was?
Well, I kind of understand the point, but it's just so remarkably ignorant. What the fuck does he mean by special forces? How is that different than a ground invasion? Is he saying that there should be a limited amount of people with a ground invasion?
He's saying
what does that mean?
A full-on ground invasion with shooting and killing everything or blowing everything up is not good, but special forces should go in and specially target military operations and do things to destroy them or something, right?
That's a ground invasion. You're just saying there should be certain troops in the ground invasion.
Well, but special forces implies more targeted, limited operations rather than a full-scale military occupation.
I don't know how that implies a more targeted operation, and I again, there's going to be civilians mixed in with.
Wait,
Hamas.
How do you mean you don't understand how it implies a more targeted invasion?
How you're just talking about a certain type of unit.
Yeah, but the types of units I think tend to specialize in smaller scale invasions, not we're going to go invade a whole city as special forces or something in general. The scope of the missions tends to be much narrower, no?
I don't know how that implies that.
Okay, I might just have no idea what special forces are, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. I don't know.
I mean, the regular military can do the same thing that, Delta can do. It's just that, Delta might be able to do it better, or they might have special training when it comes to breaching or something like that.
I've never heard that in my entire life.
But
I don't. We have a disagreement of fact right now, and I don't know what the actual answer is. But my understanding is the regular military could not do the same thing as what a special forces team could do. They might work alongside them for a certain thing, but for instance, when it comes to killing bin Laden in Pakistan, getting in and out without being detected by Pakistani, the ISI, I forget what they're called, or whatever, and being able to execute that mission as quickly as they did everything, that was a mission for the special forces. I don't know if just the army could have people that could go in and do that.
Well, the point I'm making is he's talking about just taking out Hamas. The regular army would do the same exact thing.
Okay. I'm not here to defend Cenk's point. I don't know if you don't understand. His point was that we could send in I'm going to be I'm going to exaggerate a lot. On one end, we could send in, an army to go blow things up. And on the other end, we could send in Assassin's Creed to go and kill just the bad guys and then get out, basically. Right?
Okay, if that's what he was trying to say by the special forces claim, that's full-on retarded to me.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's basically what he, I think that was the argument he was making, yeah.
Again, it doesn't make any sense because Hamas uses people as human shields. They're going to tell people to just stay there. There's going to be tons of IEDs, gas bombs being used, shit like that.
Sure, I understand. But that's the argument for, let's say that there are human shields being used in some building
that Hamas is operating out of. Like a military approach to that might just be bombing the building, but like special forces soldiers could like sneak into the building, secure civilians, and then kill bad guys while minimizing civilian casualties in a more precise way than what
they're just going to get blown up. Yeah,
okay,
they're just going to get blown
that
up.
might happen, but I'm not arguing what would happen. I'm just saying that was Cenk's idea or argument. That was his idea.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it's stupid.
Okay.
Like again, if Hamas has is using human shields, they're just going to blow up the building to kill whatever Israeli special forces there are. Okay. They don't give a fuck. They'll kill innocent civilians. So
sure.
The idea that special forces could come in, somehow magically defuse bombs, save all the civilians, and then get the prettiest girl in the movie at the end. It's just fantasy. So
I agree, but I'm not. I'm not here to. I can't. That's not my argument. I think it's dumb too. Yeah, but
okay. I was just wondering if you agreed at all with his take, and I just wanted to talk to you about it. Like if you ever talk to Cenk again and he's down to debate these issues, I'd be more than happy to debate him.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
All right. Well, take care, man.
Yep. Bye.